O'clock, I'll call it to order. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any announcements?
He's leaving. Bye.
Thanks,
Brian. Adios.
I see no public, so I will go on to new business. Discussion regarding placement of Cactus Charlie signs throughout Cave Creek to promote the town's commitment to water conservation. I don't know who asked for that.
I did.
Okay.
So, I was just driving home from Sedona and going through Clarkdale, and you enter Clarkdale and it says it's a water conserving town. And I really was impressed, and I thought maybe that we could, and also in my desert awareness committee, they started beating up on me and saying, hey, back in New York, you got signs up, save water, you got signs up here saying that, your community is doing things and we have nothing. And I said, well, we kind of thought we'd wait until the shit hit the fan and,
I'm smelling something.
and make people really pay attention when they need to pay attention and set, whatever. But it occurs to me that it would be a really good idea just for our own PR in our community in the Phoenix metropolitan area, since we're the ones with the biggest need, that we should be promoting it in a bigger way as a town.
I agree. We could certainly do something at the entrance, both sides on Cave Creek Road, I think. And if we could establish maybe a goal, what's historical and a goal, and we could have Cactus Charlie actually indicating where we are on that goal. It would, I think, give people something right away.
I think you got something very important there, Bill. That was brought up in the public meeting. That we should do something to notify the public of how much water is being used on daily, weekly, or some basis, but there has to be some way of comparing it so it's relevant. If I say I use 1 million gallons of water, what does that mean? But if it's going up steadily, or if it's above last year, that could be meaningful.
Yeah. So what I would start with is look at where we are in 2025. At the end of 2025, and set a goal for 2026 or 2027 that's reasonable. And again, residential, general average residential is what we can't have something that lists every category. I don't think we could do it, except not on entry and exit anyway. We can certainly establish them for every category of use, but that would be my suggestion. Is 2025 will be a known fact. We submitted to the Department of Water Resources the data that and they calculate what the.
But it's not fair if we have additional people moving in and using water. It's not a good indication of conservation. It's a use of how the town is using water, but not of how people are.
No,
individual.
What I'm talking about is that you put the average per residence, and so that changes as the number of residents change. That how many residents do you have that we're serving that are residential customers, and you establish. That's what you do with the Department of Water Resources.
Do you have an electronic sign that changes?
Well, I would think
Cactus Charlie is a permanent.
I was just thinking of something that was up and you put the goal in it and you periodically indicate where the goal was.
But yeah, like United Way fundraising and stuff like that, you have a goal like a thermometer. Yeah, Nancy.
I think we have two things on the table. I think we should go to the first one, which is having Cactus Charlie signs at our entrances to the town. Okay, and see if we agree on that. And that can be done quicker and cleaner, and we've talked about this for months, okay? So I think that's one issue. I think we should vote on that and see if we all agree on that. And then the other whole issue is complicated. Takes a lot of research, discussion, and figuring out if and when and how you would want to do that. And so I feel we have two things on the table.
Well, on the thermometer idea, we can say, once we know what the Colorado River allocation is, our progressive usage, like a thermometer up to the top of that, could be something to maybe
Yeah.
keep us aware of how we're trending.
And again, that's a whole separate deal. I think we should go back to what's on the table. Let's agree if we agree on that.
More outreach.
And that is a very detailed conversation and everything.
It is, and it requires the town to give us a periodic numbers. But getting back to your point, Nancy, I think we should talk about, the nature of the Cactus Charlie sign, or, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we could defer to a professional on having a couple renderings of what that might look like. And we could go from there.
Are you thinking of on the banners that are on the parkway?
No, I'm thinking of actual signs coming into town specifically for this job. And then
Permit to where water.
Lynn, did you take a picture of the sign up in Clarkdale?
No, I
You
didn't.
can look at
Oh,
I was, yeah.
I can get one.
Clarkdale or Cottonwood, did you say?
Clark
It
did.
was Clarkdale?
Yeah.
Much like we have keep Arizona beautiful or keep Cave Creek beautiful signs. I can see something similar like that. Not only at our entryways east, west, but also at our north and south.
Yes.
And maybe even midpoint or two.
Mhm.
I think that's a really good idea, just to kind of plant that seed. Cactus Charlie is kind of the face of water conservation, to be a part of that message that Cave Creek is a town that conserves water or something. Just keep it in people's minds as they drive by.
And I have to share one thing. So I talked to a big builder today. He's a young man, very successful, builds the $15 million homes. He has zero knowledge of the water issue of the state,
Of the state.
and of the West. And we think, I'm pretty sure everyone here assumes that people are up to date. They have a clue of what's going on. And I was shocked. So this is, we need this, but don't think that, this is a builder. This is a multi-million-dollar Paradise Valley builder, but still, it doesn't make any difference. He could probably build a $15 million place up here, whatever. There's a lot of people that literally don't understand or know what's going on.
Yeah, with the selection, I had so many people call me and they didn't even know for mayor. They didn't know who was running and what the issues were. Well, here are the issues. What do you think?
Right.
Well, unbelievable. And these are intelligent people.
Yes.
We have to go back to kindergarten.
Yeah, it is. So I'll put a motion on the table that a motion to approve that we have Cactus Charlie signs at the locations that you had suggested. Do we need anything added to that
If
motion?
I could suggest, Nancy, that we as a committee recommend to the council, because we can't. do
Okay, so that's what I'm asking, that we recommend to the council that we
Place.
place Cactus Charlie signs in the areas that you had recommended.
And we, and for comment on that, we might work and give some more suggestions of what the sign look like. We can talk a little
Okay,
bit, and maybe at our next meeting, if there's.
Okay.
I have
we need
a
a second to discuss it.
protocol question though, since there is a budget. Is it sufficient for this board to recommend and approve it and for Bo to execute it? Or do we have to go through the council to
Council.
Grady?
We have no authority to approve anything that spends money.
Sean's thinking.
Yeah.
No.
Calculator.
I am thinking that, again, I think what would be good is, I think the location and the graphic designs are two components of this, which will lead into what the cost is. So I think, the recommendation would be to have staff present back to the board that will then forward to council as a recommendation that will say, hey, this is where we plan to do this based on the input. So the sort of two-step process. They have us give you recommendations, because I think of the fire watch signs that we have out, and we have 2 of them, one at either end. We should have a water watch sign out.
Okay.
And what does that look like? And then can we use the banners, or where else can we place it? You know, just having the one at the two entrances is good for fire watch, but I think you're correct that Cactus Charlie and water outreach needs to be more broadly. You know, I've been at the Phoenix City Hall, and they've got stuff in the City Hall when you first walk in. I've been to the airport recently. There's City Phoenix has water banners out in there. So it's they're doing a good job. This one agency is actually doing a really good job of trying to get outreach, and I don't think we've done that level or enough.
Well, we can
I
even
can do
add
that.
to that motion to
Yeah.
possibly leave enough room on the bottom of the design of the sign. If in fact, after more discussion, there would be an additional sign that deals with what you were referring to, when you
Percentages.
have a separate sign, it would be a tall enough sign that something could be added. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I think that's where we can provide some graphics and some ideas, because also thinking driving a car, how much of a graphic you want people to look at, or you want to just say, use water wisely, you know, something like that, very more grabbing and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
for example,
Yeah.
keep Cave Creek beautiful. Those signs are almost too busy, but there's, I know the message, so it connects with me. But the water message, I know, I'm seeing how clean it can be with our Cactus Charlie as the mascot, whatever that message is. And I like the idea that room underneath, currently in whatever drought stage or whatever
It's
type of
the
message.
same post. So the
Yeah.
post
Yeah.
can be designed and this can be designed, and then there can be an area if we think ahead, that then if something comes down the road or something, there is a space for it. I'm
Mhm.
just trying to think of cost in the future.
And fewer signs. I mean, nobody likes a litter.
Well, that's what I mean. It would be on the same post. So
So as I understand the motion on the table, and I may be wrong, it's to recommend to staff to bring back recommendations at the next meeting that we can then
Yeah, I think
present.
that would be
to
good, because that gives us to work time with Bo to logistically look where they can be placed.
Yeah.
And then to maybe come up with some graphics, some examples of something. Then you guys, it's more, I think it's better for actually what we could do. And we'll have to get with the town engineer. Where can we place these? Where can we legally place them and all that stuff? And then can we use the banners? You know, that the banners are used, but there's also some restrictions on the banners. We get revenue from
When you say
that.
the banners, you're talking about
The median?
Words.
Oh, the median ones, the median banners?
Oh, the flags?
Yeah, the flags.
Those are town signs, so
So can we add several on those? You know, I know we sell some of that.
I
if
need to
remember.
talk to Teresa, but I bet
Yeah.
we could, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good-
Can we put more poles up?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
They're visible.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and once we have, I'll build that into kind of the design aspect,
great.
so that you have that opportunity to share that with council if you approve them. So,
Okay, so it's on the table. We still need a second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Talking about water conservation, is there any information regarding how much response you got to the request for reducing water use because of a system problem? We had, I mean, put it out
You
fairly
never gave
broadly.
us an okay to go back and use water.
Oh, we should have actually done.
It-
probably.
We didn't, that's our mistake.
They're like, well.
Until.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll keep conserving water, please. No. No, yeah, that's a mistake. Let me, so two things happened. Well, the main thing happened is July 1st, Rockland Canada Day, we could not start the CAP pipeline. Mud had clogged the intake structure, and then the pump started, could not be started by staff. They went into a high current situation. So that left us where we couldn't. We have reservoir storage for that distinct emergency. As staff, we went through the day. We were trying to get flush the line out, and we introduced air in the lines. We had our operational challenges, so it took till mid-afternoon. I'm the one who made the call that we need to put the code red out because I saw the reservoir levels. We have reservoirs for emergency. We did not get any outages, so I make that clear. But I felt comfortable with, and I'll be honest, I'm cautious of issuing the code reds on the systems like that because I've actually done this a few times since I've been here. And in fact, we've actually seen once we've done that call that we've actually seen water production increase because everybody goes, oh, I got to put water in my bathtub. I got to fill up my horse troughs and all that. So it's yeah, I'm always cautious about that because we'll see a water run during that request. Yeah. So,
Not everybody is signed into Code Red.
That's what,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the Code Red system that we've got right now, it does contact anybody, even if you haven't, for emergencies, if you have not signed up. So,
But not all my neighbors got it.
so that would be something we can look into. And I know the notice kind of went out, it said through the weekend, it didn't really give an end date. So I think
Said
that
until
comment,
further note,
Yeah.
until note.
yeah, I think that comment is definitely, we need to close.
yeah, I
that.
think close that loop.
It's on Facebook. That's all,
Yeah.
that's how I get it.
I
You
got
can
a
get
text.
Huh?
I got a
Text or
text.
email.
Yeah, it can go out text,
I don't know
email.
if I did. I could double check, but.
Yeah, it depends how you've signed up. If you signed up a certain way, it will contact you that
Okay.
way. But then it will also have a emergency on call,
Mm.
which is a public, it's a
Yeah. Emergency.
emergency database that
Yeah.
basically it goes to.
Well, again, one of the questions I had is, did you have any data?
No, we-
As to reaction, you know,
No.
positive or negative?
Yeah.
From the time you sent that out to.
It's hard for us to get to that level of granularity on that sort of a day production.
The new system.
No, I know. Even with that, it's just, because it's only 60% of our customers are on the system. It's more we look at, and the reason we said this was always, we're saying over the weekend is to give us time to recover to make the water up, because we're running the treatment plant about between 19 and 20 hours a day. So we do typically do a shutdown. It's one of the problems is we're starting to stopping that cap pipeline every day. We're not running as continuously. It's partly because of staffing. But to make up that lost storage, we'd have to run 24/7 for a couple of days to make sure we got the storage back up. And it took a couple of days because of how far we drained the reservoirs down. So yeah, I'm hearing a bunch of stuff because I know there's some conversations at the staff level about the Code Red system. And we had an issue with it recently where it wasn't notifying any of the customers in Desert Hills or the few Cave Creek customers that are actually outside our municipal limits. So, and we're talking about, there's some discussions back and forth about changing to another system to help us get more, and then seeing what opportunities. Also goes back to a discussion that we've had for a while internally in staff, is that the contact information for customers. Do we have current contact information so that people know? Some people don't want us to contact them. It's like, well, we're a utility. We need to be able to contact you in an emergency. And they say, well, no, here's my PO box number. Well, that doesn't really help us. So,
Question
Yeah.
for Sean. I was just at a Desert Awareness Committee meeting, and I understand that Diane Smith has moved forward with having the town support and pay for water conservation programs at the Holland Center. And I thought that was something that our committee was going to be, kind of the leads on, but I wasn't at the last meeting and I haven't seen minutes from it, so I don't know if you guys brought it up.
So it is something that was
Yeah.
brought up just recently last week to us, Bo, I
Yeah.
believe. And actually, they were planning to attend this meeting to actually talk and collaborate. But they were unfortunately had other things come up for this month. So I'm hoping next month.
Well, they've got dates and times and places, and they're moving forward, and they say that they have a budget, they have money, the town is paying for it. So I was
I
a
did,
little surprised that we were not informed.
yeah, I don't remember. The topic got introduced to us, but then I didn't think we ever signed a formal letter of intent or anything else. If they've gone, I think they're a little overstepping the conversation that we had with them.
Maybe, you can kind of comment a
Yeah.
little more on this and what we did. They
And
just
we're fine with having more agencies involved, but again, it needs to be, I know we've had a conversation with Desert Awareness Kitty for a couple of years. Yeah,
Diane Basley is not involved in this, it's Diane Smith.
yeah.
And, she's going ahead and just telling us, oh, by the way, you're sponsoring this. And I go,
No.
I made it very clear during our meeting
No,
that it
she's-
needs to be a collaborative
Okay.
thing. That's where they were planning to attend this
Hmm.
meeting, but they couldn't, right? I mean, that was the email.
As I understood it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not sure what she's communicating outside. What we did, and I was charged with, is find out from Holland Center what days are available, and I did that with Jen Rosvell, and just
dates, times.
yeah, yeah, she moved forward very quickly. I'm not sure what the relationship was or anything like that.
I just want to.
Yeah, when she presented to us, she mentioned that she was already doing a lot of that with Carefree already.
Yeah, yeah.
So we said, oh, it might be good for us to piggyback with that. That was a conversation. We never went further to talk about a budget and what that would look like in a letter of intent or an MOU to do that.
and she
Yeah.
doesn't discuss it with me.
Yeah, but I know she mentioned in the meeting that she's already doing it with Carefree and they had some arrangement with Carefree. I don't think we ever got the documentation of what that looks like, whether that was ad hoc or how they, or if Carefree was directly funding it, to be honest with you.
By us, at our, this committee.
Well, you know, it would become from the town as the town, as part of our outreach education is what the thought was, you know, if there's,
Purpose is conservation and
yeah, well, that's why again, Ryan was trying to get a collaboration meeting to have them here to actually discuss that. We got presented to it in a meeting. It was Diane and her husband presenting it to us, and we said that sounds good. If you're doing something for Carefree, maybe we can combine it together. It makes sense to not reinvent the wheel. And that's the last I've heard. I know
And they went to Grady first, just to.
Yeah, and there's been some email correspondence, but we're trying. No letter of intent or no budget was discussed that
No.
I'm aware of.
No,
So,
there was
yeah.
some discussion on, you know, it would be good to give them some type of, you know, for their time or whatever, but I don't think anything concrete has happened other than getting some tentative dates at the Holland Center. But we made it clear during that meeting that, you know, it should be a collaborative effort. They were planning to come to this meeting to discuss and talk, but they couldn't. So
I know the Desert Awareness Committee had presented us with a proposal before we had budget available last year. So it's like, we'd like to have that conversation again and whether or not, you know, we had a new procurement officer, we could talk about, you know, how do we do this properly? Or do we need to get council action to approve it, even though they've given us a budget? And depending on the amount of money, do we have the authority just to issue something? That's, you know, we'd like to continue that conversation too, because I think it sounds like there's different agencies that could help do stuff, but again, I think this committee needs to be aware of it all. It's one thing. Again, Ryan's been trying to coordinate this in the back end, but it sounds like we didn't get done and that they overstepped. We weren't aware of that. So I apologize for that. So,
well,
yeah.
it's Diane's way of doing things. Which is very cooperative. And I was just surprised that she said she had a budget and the town was paying for it and all this stuff was going on. And as far as I knew, she made sure to let everyone know that we didn't know what was going on.
you know, we were still even talking about like what speakers and everything, like that
She's
stuff
lying.
hasn't even been flushed out. Any of that. It's all preliminary. She was even asking me like what ideas I had for speakers, and I'm like, you should come to the meeting. You know, there's
Yeah.
you know, good collaboration going on. So, you know, maybe there's somebody who can speak on irrigation. But you're right. Yeah, there were some ideas proposed about having 3 meetings, getting public engagement at the Holland Center, and talking about conservation education.
And
And-
she's got the speaker for
Yeah.
irrigation and it's using Oya's ceramic thing pots and putting water in it that drips out. It makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm just very leery of what the town is supporting and paying for.
I would suggest, Ryan, that there be further communication so that there isn't misunderstanding as to how far the town is. And I would encourage us to put it on the next agenda, if they want to attend, both the Desert Awareness and Holland Center.
Yes, I'll broach that subject and let them know again.
I won't be here next meeting.
I won't be either. I'm out of town, so I don't know if we're
Okay.
having a meeting next week.
It could be a
That's not-
problem.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you bringing up the concern. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was my concern as well
Yeah,
during the meeting.
Yeah.
Multiple times I was like, you come to the UAC, you know, you need to collaborate would be my recommendation.
yeah. So she just presented it as a dumb deal. We've got it scheduled. And we want the Desert Awareness to be supportive of it and help us. We
Yeah,
said, do you want money? No, town's paying for it.
that's first time. Yeah, first I've heard.
It's like misinformation.
And we were told that they were collaborating with Carefree and we never did see the final documentation of what that collaboration was. And they said that Carefree was supporting some of that. I think, yeah. So that's where we thought, you know, for 2 small agencies side by side, it makes sense that we have a common message. We both need to conserve water. Our water situation is a little bit different than Carefree water, but overall they still need to conserve water. You know, and the Colorado River cuts aren't hitting them quite as bad because they do actually have some more groundwater wells that they can rely on than we can. So,
I'll see if we can get on the agenda with them. That's what you guys want. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. And I think we're pretty adamant that we have the utility, we want to have a common message going out. We're just, you know, we want to make sure everybody's aware of it. And that's the role of this committee is for the outreach. So, yeah, I think it sounds like someone might have overstepped the conversation.
Gone a little fast. on it.
Yeah. I apologize if
I
that,
don't
yeah.
know if you can go too fast, you know, and we don't want to meddle in the initiative of the people,
Yeah,
but we certainly can ask, you know, please share it with us.
Yeah.
You know, because this is part of other things that we're
no,
doing.
yes, yeah,
I think what I'm hearing is what needs to be clarified is if someone is going out saying this town is paying for it, that needs to be clarified with them, because if there is not, you need to
Yeah.
make sure they're aware of the fact that it's not.
Yeah, I think
To
there was
to fix their,
yeah.
what
The-
they're saying.
And I don't know what she said, you know, but my understanding of the only discussion of funds and money at all is maybe there's something that the town can work up to try to, for these speakers, for giving the, you know, they're the expert honor, yeah, just something for their time. But I don't think there was money talked about.
No, we talked about, you know, a
Any-
variety of
yeah.
subjects. She generally had narrowed down the subjects. We didn't know who the speakers would be, but then lock in what are some dates, you know, could the town help?
Speakers specifically.
Yeah.
lined up.
But I saw I didn't know what that pot in the ground meant.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, I think that would dry up very quickly.
not only that, but if it's constantly leaking water, then desert plants don't like wet feet, and that would rot the roots. I mean, they want dry feet. But she said they're not, so, I mean, it just,
It'd be good.
I've heard her give this spiel 10 times and it never makes sense to me.
Be good if
and-
they can come to the next meeting. Yeah. Just kind of collaborate.
Yeah, again, from what was presented, we just thought it'd be good, you know, again, if we're doing something with Carefree, it's good for both agencies to work together. That was the discussion. We probably need to reach out to Carefree, the new manager over there, and see what they're doing, and then out to Carefree Water Company and see what they're supporting over there. Nick, no.
Yeah, these things for the last 15 years,
Oh,
20
yeah.
years,
Oh, yeah.
four Saturdays in January. Yeah.
Okay. And this is that specifically the clay pot underground. Is that some of the stuff that this is new?
It's Diane's thing and
Okay.
makes these pots, and it's a whole way of irrigating, but it's not for, doesn't make any sense for desert landscaping as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, I do have a lot of background in that, so.
Yeah.
But she doesn't sit down and, you know, maybe if I'd listen to this guy, but it doesn't, it's not something we really want to promote. I mean, if you're gonna have a pot with another pot in it and keep your geraniums wet all the time, that's fine with me, but it's not something we really want to promote as desert landscaping. That's
Right.
the answer to.
In 2 years, the
irrigation.
geraniums are out of here.
Yeah.
Every July 1st.
Yeah.
I don't know. I again. She's
Well,
not a
Well,
collaborative
good
person.
knowledge.
I'll reach out to them
Okay.
and express the.
Can we go back to Nancy's number 2 item?
Oh,
You know,
No, we're gonna bring it up. Okay, go
well, the
ahead.
thermometer, yeah. I have an idea, Bo.
Yeah, I like the idea,
Um,
how we're doing against the standard.
rather than a thermometer, have some kind of a rendering of Lake Mead
Oh, boy.
with the level of the water and it dropping down periodically and how many days we have left at the normal.
But we're not dependent totally on Lake Mead. We're,
Well, CAP.
Well, it's a symbol.
it's,
Yeah, because everything we get flows through Lake Mead.
Mhm. It does.
Well, one thing to keep in mind that you have people driving, hopefully looking out for other drivers and animals crossing the road. We have to make whatever message we have very
Yeah.
simple. So
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, as far as an image, you know, and then some words and stuff that go along with it. People will remember that.
They don't even know. I would like to think, you gotta remember, I think people know that there's 2 lakes. There are people literally don't even understand our lakes and understand that Cap comes from there. I would say 90% of people don't have any clue.
Well,
Well, I know, but it's true.
It's
Start
true.
asking people,
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
especially younger people.
nobody's watched the video that, you know,
if it's not on TikTok, it's not being seen.
Right.
have
So
them put together.
We got to put it on TikTok.
we have TikTok.
There wasn't an overflow crowd for the water, the CAP when they came. I mean, that really surprised me.
People have no
But
idea.
They were up in
what's
arms
happening.
about the parking lot at the Desert Awareness. Event. I mean, it was overflowing that night.
Mhm,
If you're angry about something,
Yeah.
but just to be
mhm.
educated isn't necessarily.
Yeah, we do. It'd be interesting because we're still a few weeks away from the Bureau of Reclamation issuing theirs, and that'll allow us. I think that will become hopefully, well, I think it'll be a bigger news story. So that allow us to maybe do some outreach. We're talking back with council about stuff like that. We're supposed to do a check-in, talk about our water resources anyway.
Scottsdale,
That's-
they
yeah.
put out quite a thing, they're
Yeah.
talking about big cuts already and, big cuts. So it's gonna be interesting.
I think it's 65% of theirs from the cap.
Yeah.
So
They're
they're big
saying
cuts.
closing all car washes,
Oh, I didn't realize we were that far
a
away.
lot of the golf courses, which we know are gonna go brown. I mean, they have a whole list of things and a moratorium on building.
Well,
And-
it is one, you talk about the
Wow.
messaging,
All right.
being so close to Phoenix and being part of the Phoenix Metro communications like TV and radio. That's where our residents are going to get their news. And the more that Phoenix does, it helps us because it raises that level of awareness. Getting those signs out there, clicking, seeing that in a couple locations, suddenly like, oh, we have a water conservation, our water conserving issue. And then in our local newspapers, if they pick up those, just keep connecting the dots. And, someday that spigot's not going to turn on as much. That's when people get interested, is when suddenly their water shut off.
Yeah.
And
But down the road, your suggestion of having it where we compare with what our allocation is and where we are.
Right.
Once we start getting that allocation, I think that's a very good idea. That's something I would relate to. How everybody is on an average I wouldn't care less. I mean, numbers are numbers and whatever it is. It's my bill that I care about, but I don't really care about the average person in Cave Creek. So you-
The other thing we have going on right now is it's dawning me again. We actually have engaged Matas Water Resources, and they just actually had a meeting with Bo to talk about outreach. So that will be coming out of that group also. That's a national group that does this around the country, and they're aware of our issues, and they're working on a report that should be done this fall. Part of that is our outreach. They're diving into the numbers and seeing where's the best places for us to be focusing on for water conservation outreach. Is their scope and helping us really define that. But the actual outreach message is part of that. And I know they met with Bo recently. I wasn't able to attend that meeting.
yeah, and it was a good meeting. They loved Cactus Charlie. They liked what we were doing. But is it targeted? No, we're pushing it out. And that's their job, is to find how to make it targeted so it has more impact. What other things we can do as well. So
But having posters with the same Cactus Charlie sign, like in Town Hall, when you first come in, we're water conserving community.
Yeah.
And having that around town in different places, maybe in the library on their board. I think we could
Agree.
have it in schools.
well, we're also going to be changing on the website, making sure we have like a water watch. So as soon as someone comes to the website, they're going to see that box that will take them to the right, location. That was one of the things that came out of the meeting, which is easy to do. And I like water conserving community. We're like, what? And that all you need is a what to have people try to find out more information.
If nothing else, it's good for PR for our city or town, wherever we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
That we're on it and realize that, we're not trying to.
Well, we're being contacted by a lot of national media groups. Working with forget the American Rivers Org or something like that, which is a big Washington DC group. They reached out to talk to Sean, our star, and so and this is something then that type of messaging then also goes to a lot of national conferences. Now, is it a lot of preaching to the choir? You bet. It absolutely is. But it's
We can thank him for the rain last week.
yes, he did that.
Did you do rain dance?
Watch this dance.
The other side of the ring, yeah, shut down a project we're trying to do.
Yeah.
The one night after rain.
Yeah.
Shutting-
Yeah.
Of course.
But it's as more and more cities talk about it, the better it gets.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, we do have physical restrictions. Just thinking, like when I was in City of Phoenix Town Hall, they have a very large lobby, so they have some very large outreach signs. But our lobby is so tight and compact. It'd be nice to put Charlotte up there, but if you've been in our lobby, there's not much breathing space in there. But can we put one outside the door every day and just bring it in and out or something like that? Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think we could do more. I think Maddox came with some good outreach. I think it's us presenting some of that back to you as far as where we can start placing it and get some stuff out. I do see the fire watch. I drive by and I see
Yeah.
the one coming in on Cave Creek Road, and we should have a water watch sign up. Just be aware that and what's that message and what we do is something we have to. You're driving by. In that case, it's a very simple one for fire watch. Where are we at? You're in the extreme. You need permits to do. It's a very simple sign. And do we have that water watch? We're in extreme. You need to be in extreme mode. The irony is, until the way we did our drought management plan, until the Bureau of Reclamation announces what the cuts are, we can't do the calculation because we know we need to do better. And again, with discussions on limiting growth, we've done that in Desert Hills. We did that 2021. We stopped issuing new permits out there. There was a discussion: do we have to do it here to restrict that?
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
I don't think people, I share on Facebook there's quite a few movies or clips done on both lakes, and I've been sharing them on my Facebook page. And it's dire. If you watch everything I'm posting, I moved back here, and I'll be honest, if I was moving back here today, I wouldn't buy. It's that bad. If people have knowledge, you will not take your money from somewhere else and come back here. And I'm a native here, but that's how bad it is. And I keep telling everybody what's going to happen. And, those lakes are horrible. And it's going to take years and years and years of snowpack. So the young gentleman I was talking about earlier, he says, well, if we get one good year of snowpack, that's the knowledge of someone building $15 million homes.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, no. It would take years and years of snowpack. So, and when I go to Colorado with the horses, they're telling us to bring water with us.
Oh, wow.
And that's in Colorado.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I travel a lot with my horses. So when you rig, they're saying, fill up your trailer. Don't expect that you're going to come here and fill up.
Wow.
Because we think of upper basins as having more water.
No, they're cutting back there too.
That's what I'm saying.
Farmers are fallowing their fields.
That's what I'm saying. But you see, the people don't understand. They have no understanding.
Denver's had much heavier conservation, mandatory conservation for the last decade.
Well, and also Denver's huge. Denver's growth, if you compare it from 30 years ago till today, it's ridiculous.
Those others.
Yeah. And so they've outgrown everything they have. And that's what's happened. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's a broken record.
Very good discussion. I think it's again, we've tried to temper water use by things like the rates and increasing the rates. But as we get into some analysis later, some of the analysis we've done with Mados, it's just there's still some customers out there who the money's no object. They just want a lifestyle. They want to stay. So
Literally will go up 200, 300% before people wake up.
Shock factor.
And no, compare that to my electric bill.
Yeah.
And I already conserve, so we conserve a lot. That's the other issue. What's going to happen down the road on people that already conserve? I have 4 plants I water on my 5 acres because I'm on the desert side of things.
And we appreciate it again, and that's why we created last year this lower tier. But yeah, we really need to look at it again. Obviously, the current rates are in place till 28, but that doesn't mean we can't look at them before that. We want to have some certainty.
Because people are not going to.
And we went into those rates having some knowledge of what new water resources may cost us, but we didn't have any projects. So we have to get over that hurdle and figure out what projects we can get and then how to fund it. We've talked about redoing the capacity fees and building in a water resource fee. But legally, we actually have to have projects identified in order to build those and charge those fees. So we're this caught in this dilemma that we've looked at a couple of projects like Harkahela Valley. We lucky not to move into it. If we'd stayed in that would have given me a number to go and do this analysis with. But it was just a scary number for us to jump into that project right out of that. But nothing's getting easier. Everybody else is jumping in, and we're looking around as much as we can. It's great that we've got the water exchange agreements in place with Peoria, and we're.
How many years do we have that?
It's actually good for 7.
Good.
With renewable, and they're helping us out. Why are they doing this? Because we asked the question, and they said yes, we can help you, but if it gets too bad, there's an out for them to say we can't give you the water. So, but they're willing at this point to help us get access to the groundwater credits that we have out there. So. Yeah, it's hard as being a small agency trying to compete against Scottsdale's and the Phoenix and the Peorias and all that to do that. So we're trying to partner as much as we can. So we're going to talk very much off topic right now.
So
So,
talking water conservation.
yeah, this is a broad overall conversation.
But Bo and Ryan, you know what you're gonna bring back to us?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
So we know that two of us can't be here in August as scheduled. Can we change the date to earlier in the month? I'm leaving like the 18th, so anytime but work.
Well, we'll get to the
Yeah.
future meeting agenda items at the end, so we'll deal with that.
I know we've got meetings scheduled. It's on Mattis's calendar to come and do 1 or 2 presentations to the group, if I remember correctly.
As I understood, I'm not sure when, but
Yeah, I don't think we set the date so we can talk to them about that. So when they're ready to present to us, so. 'Cause they're a really good group, and I think they'd be good for the community to hear from them. And then eventually, once we get your input and all that, then we'll actually have them present the last findings to the council and their recommendations at that point. So.
yeah, if you go to their website and see the knowledge they have on their team, their bench is deep and very smart.
And give me the name of it again?
Maddaus Water Management, Maddaus.
Something like that. I think it'll come up as long as you include water with that, it will show up.
Yeah, Carlos. What's Carlos's email? I got that. Yeah.
Mattis Water Management.
Oh, that's what it is.
MADDAUS.
Okay, I spelled it wrong. Yeah, there.
Hey,
The website's maddauswater.com, Maddaus water.com.
Mhm.
Yeah. And while the firm's based out of Northern California, they actually have staff that are around the country. So it's interesting. So they got this.
What have they been asked to do?
Really help us focus in on our water conservation and look at where we can improve the system and where we can get the best I'd say bang for the dollar, where we should best focus on improving. You know, we've got over 85% of our customer base is residential in Cave Creek. It's actually even more in Desert Hills. So should we be going after the residential customers? Is there just high users? What can we go focus on in commercial? They just, they did a larger scale project. Mattis actually did the one in Flagstaff, and they're actually doing one for Prescott Valley right now. It's honing in. It's really helping us hone in on where should we be focused on for this as a community, as Cave Creek, to get water conservation message out, and where should we be focused on our efforts for water conservation, and provide us input on what's the best things for us to get that message out. So it's an overall comprehensive program, adding on to, our drought and water management plan really needs a refresh. And part of that, they'll actually tell us where we need to do refresh. They're actually looking at our town code and recommending changes to the town code. So out of this, I will get, a report from them. I'll probably come back with a revised water and drought management plan and look at code revisions to help strengthen what we've got in code right now.
I know it's premature. We haven't discussed, the stuff I put together, but it has a lot of information that I think that they should be armed with, just for consideration.
And that, going off topic again, we've given them that and other information. They've actually had data requests, and we'll share all this with them. You did a great analysis. We'll send that over to them. But the raw data set that Ron gave you, actually, they have, and they asked for other stuff too. So
Yes.
yeah. So they're very data driven, which, being an engineer at life.
Yeah.
Ooh, but yeah, so and we'll share what you gave them, obviously. And, but yeah, it was interesting when Ryan did that report for you. I saw that. We're jumping ahead again, but it's telling in some cases, where's the water being used, and where's the customers, and where's it on development, or who's using the most water and stuff for customers.
Right. And just for this group, put together some graphs and stuff that illustrated, where that water was going and who was consuming the most of it. And that should give us a little bit of guidance as to, where to focus our efforts, and that's why I thought sharing the information, I mean, they could probably do the same thing, but it'll give them an extra
starting point,
idea.
No,
and I think more ideas are better.
Yeah.
On to B now.
Yep.
Staff update on bulk invitation for bid for Cave Creek.
Yeah. So you're aware, last fall we did an IFB, an invitation for bidders for the Desert Hills system. which we did get bids in, and we did an evaluation and talked to council on that. And after seeing those bids, they asked us to go out and do look at all the systems. Right now, the IFB has been released, so all I can really say is that the IFB is out on the street. It got released beginning of last week. We've got backup appendices, and I'm still working on additional appendices. It closes September 10th. So at this point, we can't mention anything. There is site tours planned the week of August 8th or August 3rd. There'll be a pre-bid conference and then site tours. I guess, if someone's going to be bidding on the system, we want them to see the system. So we're gathering as much information as we can, but it's not, September 10th right now is when the bids are due. And then I think we've got scheduled currently 3 or 4 weeks for our consulting firm Reptalis to look at those bids, do the analysis, what they think is recommendations. Part of the analysis that Reptalis is doing is actually the appraisals of the system. Because depending on the appraised value, then that triggers different state statutes. It's trying to sell an asset for the town, depending on the value, triggers whether voters have to be involved and whether council could do its own action. And that's part of the discussion that's going on right now. And even discussion of, is the water part of the appraised asset value the way it's defined in state statute? So there's some legal interpretations going back and forth right now. But yeah, once the bids come in, it'll be still at that point, it's Reptalis reviewing it and then presentations to council. So it'll be a little bit later before everything's released. I'm not sure when formally. Sherry White, our finance director, is really the acting person. I'm sort of on the back end, working with staff to feed the information to the process at this point. So I think that's all I can say at this point. You can go onto the website if you choose. We've got the document itself and then all the appendices. If you go on the town's website, you can download it. You're free to download it. What it asks you to do is just to enter your email address. You don't really register for the system. You enter so it knows and can track who's pulling the information off the website. So it is, it's causing, I'll be honest, it's causing a little disconcern with staff because this process has been going on for almost a year because we started it last summer with Desert Hills. And, just so you're aware of it, we've lost over six staff members since December because of this. And that's one of the underlying things I hear about is the system going to be sold? And I'd rather go control my own destiny by leaving. So it is causing stress to the operation right now, this process. So my goal is to get it done as quick as we can and get through it. And then the decision can be made. There's reasons why it's being discussed is, there's still a fairly extensive improvements to the system. The town went into buying the systems and actually had reports. And as I bring forward, we did a 2024 utility master plan that identified a lot of projects, but I can go back and see most of those projects from the 2006 evaluation that was done when we bought the system. Town couldn't afford to do them all. So, at some point we have to address what we can. We've done a lot of improvements to the system, considerable amount to rebuild the base of the system.
The delivery part you've updated. Is what you're
the infrastructure pipelines have been replaced. People forget all the stuff on Black Mountain. It's almost all gone. They used to have a lot of 2-inch galvanized lines sitting above the ground. We have a few sections that we know about, but there's been a lot of effort done for a lot of improvements to the system, and including the water treatment plant upgrades and the distribution system, the booster stations, our new connection to the city of Phoenix, which is a lot more expensive than we thought. We've done improvements along the way, so I'll give credit to the staff preceded me to get a lot of this stuff done to improve the system, to make it more reliable. And that's why it really hurts when we have to do like the code red alert to say, a code red alert saying we could have an outage, because, it actually pains us to say that, but we have to make sure that customers are aware that we might have an issue. Like just last weekend, we had an issue because the booster station went down. Our pressure zone 8 was impacted. It's the pressure zone that's, talking off topic here, east of Schoolhouse Road, north of the town core. The PLC, the program logic controller that controls the site, a cable got damaged. It broke. We had to troubleshoot and find that, and the vendor didn't have one, so we had to actually go off-site and come back and do that. And while that was going on, we lost control for that pressure zone. So we actually manually ran it. After a few hours, we were able to get water back up to it, but at lower pressures. But that actually lasted most of the day for us to deal with that. And then right after that, we had a power outage at another booster station that we don't have a generator at. So it's just like, And that was the night before that, we were trying to get a hydrant out of the system that got rained out. So she's like, it was Friday morning was not a good day for us last week.
Well, you're still doing something on Carefree Highway. What's all that?
Carefree Highway is a couple projects, and one of them's not us. CenturyLink is down there doing emergency repair. We've been down with our contractors, Deegan Construction, and they're doing repairs to the manholes on the north side of the road. So they were trying to get in to do some coatings. They've actually gone in. The manholes have deteriorated pretty extensively, and they're going in and basically we started at Cave Creek Road and started working west towards the plant. Where our goal is to try and get it done once. I know it's painful doing that. At the same time, we have CenturyLink had an emergency last week, and then we also have Garney Construction in there. Garney Construction is the contractor working for the city of Phoenix, doing the disconnects of the system. So they were putting the pipeline in Cave Creek Road that interconnected systems. They're doing the pipeline on Lone Mountain Road, which is helping Phoenix move water around the system. And they're also have a contractor who did the City of Phoenix booster station improvement project. So in total, I understand Phoenix spent about $40 million to improve their water system in order for us to connect onto it and for them to take over fire protection south of Carefree Highway. What Garney is doing right now is we have 3 8-inch water lines that cross Carefree Highway that need to be severed. And that's part of the fire system. The Abraza Hospital has 2 lines, so they have a loop system. They're actually connecting it to the city of Phoenix, has a line, an existing 12-inch line on the south side. They're connecting that over. That's what's going on this week, and then next week we're going to do shutdowns on the north side so they can sever the lines on our sides. Because we don't want to left pipes. There's tapping sleeves, and then it's just a piece of pipe. We don't want that in the system, so they're going to come in and cut that out and give us a solid sleeve at those 3 locations. So there's 6 physical disconnects being done, and that should be the end of it. And then Phoenix will take over fire protection south of Carefree Highway. They already do domestic service for all the customers. I'm getting my bearings here.
West of Cave Creek Road.
West of Cave Creek Road. We have 6 customers, 3 customers with 6 meters east of Cave Creek Road, including Walmart, that will be converted over to the City of Phoenix meters here probably in a few weeks. And they'll take over domestic and fire service for both sides, everything south of Carefree Highway. So, yeah, it's been a little disruptive. Again, we had the manhole work was going on, and then Garney didn't give us a schedule. And then as soon as we got our manhole contractor working, Garney came and said, "Oh, we want to be in there working." We're right there. And then have CenturyLink come in now too. So yeah, and then you guys are aware of it. In a few weeks, August 3rd is the week I was told, so not that far away. As part of the Phoenix Interconnect site, we actually have to tie into the city, the 16-inch water line that we have out in Cave Creek Road. So it's in the southbound lanes of Cave Creek Road in front of the site. And the only way to safely do that, because of its position, is to shut down both lanes. So they'll actually be diverting traffic over to the east side of the road. So it'd be 1 lane north and south for a period of about 3 weeks while they cut into our 16-inch line, extend it into the site, and then patch and pave it all. So yeah.
Usually then they pick January or someplace when it's so crowded.
Yeah. So, but now, yeah, this is, they've said realistically it's going to take about 3 weeks between them shutting it down so they can get in, expose it all, and put the piping in and 16-inch. And we're trying to actually thread a 16-inch line amongst everything else that's in there, including the town's got 8-inch force main, 8-inch effluent line, and our 16-inch cap line, and a distribution line, and there's a fiber optic line, gas line. So we're trying to figure out, and we actually have, we're going to be a little shallow one spot. We actually have to do extra protection above it to try and sneak this through. And with a 16-inch line, we actually have special fittings that they had to order to get it all to work out. So it'll be interesting when we see it all done. And they'll actually physically sever our 16-inch main at that time to actually bring it in and out of the site. So we're nearing the end. By the end of August is this current schedule to start accepting water from City of Phoenix. They should be done with their work on Carefree Highway in the next 2 weeks is what they've told me. Their booster pump station is ready to deliver us water. We're not ready to receive it till the end of August. So it's all coming together very, by the end of August, hopefully we're getting up to 1,000 gallons a minute coming in from the City of Phoenix, which will greatly help. That's why it would have been nice a few weeks ago when we had this outage on the CIP pipeline. That would have allowed us to say, oh, it's not that big of a deal. We'll just use the Phoenix water, because the problem with the CAP pipeline goes down, we can't make water. So the systems, we're relying on reservoir storage for the customers to get supplied with water, and that only works so far. But if we can continually get up to 1,000 gallons a minute coming from Phoenix, then that helps us buffer those things and extend our reservoir storage. And we're having good conversations with Phoenix about being able to get more water from them. So yeah, they've been a really, really good partner for the town. So Can't give enough credit. Their staff are being great. So a little bit more, but yeah, as far as the IFB, and September 10th is the closing date right now, unless there's enough questions that would push that out. I know we gave them enough time. We thought a couple of months, and enough information but when we did the IFB for Desert Hills, we did extend that a little bit more, simply because of the amount of information that we had to gather for them, that the questions were answered. So we've been diligently working, anticipating the questions, and hopefully issuing our own addendums before they ask the questions and get it out there. So just a lot of work pulling all this together, every site and all this information. So
Moving on to status of the town's Central Arizona project, water supply and ongoing efforts to supplement water sources.
yeah, so the real question mark is we're waiting for the Bureau of Reclamation to give us tell us what the cuts are going to be. As was mentioned when we had the workshop with the CAP, with Natalie from the CAP, is what we're hearing now is the anticipated cuts to the Central Arizona project are that I forget the total number. They're trying to do some statewide, but to us as a municipal and industrial subcontractor, and that's usually what most of our water is coming from, is that CAP is trying to manage that and get it down to a 14% cut to us. They can't guarantee that because they don't know what the statewide cut is.
I
But
think
that's
the
everything.
statewide cut's going to be huge.
It's larger, and there's actually being other things that are being given up.
They don't have the water. If you look at your lakes, that's what people aren't. I mean, they're talking
Yeah.
about, they're crazy if they think it's going to be some small amount. It isn't. It's
No.
not the water.
No, and it's
The reality there is that they gotta keep the power plants
They're
running.
not right. They're going to go
That's not what their game plan is, though. They wanna
It's-
keep,
look into it. The
Glen Canyon.
power plants are
Mhm.
not going to be running in another year. There is not enough water.
well, if that's the case, but for now, there is, and that means that much water is coming through. So I can't imagine them cutting that much this year.
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of discussion. CAP actually has
Like Deadpool, then.
yeah, CAP actually has some good information on their website. You know, there's discussions on there's several smaller reservoirs up in the upper basin states, which
Seeing one in.
Yeah. they're empty. And the discussion was initially that the upper basin states were saying, well, that's our reservoir storage and you can't touch it. But actually, if you look at it got constructed by the federal government as additional storage on the Colorado River basin. So that's why they're being added into
And
the
let's just
discussion.
assume that,
So-
let's just say they do that. That's short term.
It is short.
Nothing solves the problem except for several years of
Yeah.
different weather.
An atmospheric river.
Or a pipeline from the east.
Yeah.
But mismanagement for the last 15 years has caused what
Oh,
we have.
I could go back
Yeah.
more than that. Yes.
Yeah, overall, there has been discussions actually on Friday. There was a meeting. The Arizona Water Banking Authority is one of the agencies that was set up by the state to actually put aside when it was called excess cap water. I don't think we're going to be using that term for a number of years to actually store groundwater. And they have over 4 million acre feet stored to help support and back up municipal industrial suppliers like ourselves. They finally are getting a proposal of how they're going to distribute those credits. And that was presented finally on a meeting on Friday. So Brad Hill, who hasn't been at these meetings, but actually did the workshop with me, he actually presented on our behalf. I was actually helping deal with the emergency, and Brad's much more keyed in on this and did a really great job from what I understand. I saw what he's presenting. So yeah, there's a bunch of moving things. So we have our shortages coming. How bad it is, we don't know. We're still waiting for the Bureau of Reclamation. They're supposed to do it by the end of the month. They're leaving till the end of the month. So it's like, thanks. We do have, we've moved forward with our exchange agreement with Peoria, and that's in place. So that gives us access to the storage credits that we have in the Our Free facility. We're making really good progress on the exchange agreement with the City of Surprise, which gives us access to our storage credits in the Hieroglyphics facility, which ironically is about double what we have in that facility. And with the discussions about distributing the water credits, the water bank actually has credits in both those facilities. So the exchange agreements that we put in place actually allow us to leverage not just our credits, but if we're handed credits through the water bank. So that's a great thing for us. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainties, and we're not sure what the final decision by the Bureau of Reclamation is. Everybody is waiting around. The CAP believes that through management and other things that even if it's a 20% cut to the state overall, that they can manage it to only a 14% cut to the municipal and industrial subcontractors. They won't go as how far that would go out. And that's the other discussion point. Will there be more than one cut the first year is, will there be subsequent years? And that's really a big unknown for us. So we are trying to pursue other options, you know, from a physical infrastructure standpoint. Our connection to Phoenix is huge for us, but then how do we get new water resources for the town? At this point, as been said publicly, Brad, we presented all this as, you know, right now to meet the needs of our current customers, if we could weather up to about a 20% cut. And then, you know, right now we have been recharging up through this year. We've had excess. We haven't used our full allocation. If it goes below 20%, we are in a situation where we don't have water for customers. So we're still working on trying to get some wells back online, but those we believe are not going to be a long-term solution. That'd be short-term but it'll help out and everything. So we're watching very closely to see, depending on again how deep the cuts goes at 14%, then we're good and we don't need to draw on the exchange agreements, which means our storage credits can stay stored until we truly need them. The cost is actually very low. Peoria and Surprise are both giving us a very, very good deal for it. They're not costing very much money for us to have that. It's incredible what they're extending to us. So the olive branches that we've been extended as an agency is huge. So, but as we move forward, we will have to have harder discussions with council as far as, you know, again, it's in 2021 that we said no more new connections in Desert Hills, and that was based on water resources. Desert Hills was a water system that was developed on groundwater wells. They never had a surface water allocation. They chose not to pursue when there was CAP water available. M&I subcontractors, they chose not to. So when Cave Creek Water bought that, we had to supplement them with water from our portfolio, and we've been trying to get off that for 20 years. In 21, we said we don't have to continue allowing the growth to occur out there and supporting it. There's still commercial growth out there, that there's commercial buildings coming in. They're drilling a well, putting a little reservoir storage, and they're having to deal with fire protection. We've got one coming in. O'Reilly's, if you've been in Desert Hills by 7th Street, that was one of the last ones to get under the old program. They actually had a water meter and permits in prior to I was putting the policy in place. That project's been in queue for about 10 years, honestly. It predates me at the town, but now the next lot over to them, they want to build. But ironically, they can't connect to our water system, even though it's surrounding them. So, but we're getting been a lot of push by a lot of other commercial developers along there. Everybody thinks that, hey, I've got developable land, and they're seeing TMSC, they're seeing growth, and they're saying we want a meter, and we've been saying no a lot out there. But it's ironic that now they're going in and they're doing small commercial developments, and they're drilling a well, putting in storage. I feel for Daisy Mountain because now their fire protection is coming from an on-site storage tank, not from connecting to a distribution system. But that's what you're going to see a lot of. What's going to happen in Cave Creek is going to have to be a discussion we have to have with our council. Where do we have to draw the line for new connections? And, you know, the town still has a lot of subdivisions, platted subdivisions that were platted prior to the Groundwater Management Act in place that haven't been fully built out. We also have subdivisions that have certificates of assured water supply that are effectively a contract that we provide water to them. So we have to account for that. So is the first ones to go is the commercial lots that don't have a certificate and or the individual private lots that aren't part of one of those neighborhoods. And we say no to them.
To think about, you know, they want to actively protest some of the certificates of assured water supply because most of them have to be reviewed every 10 years, certainly 20 years. And most of those are more than for those old subdivisions, including Cahaba. Were initially issued many years ago. They need to be reviewed by the department, and the town can take an active role in in those reviews if it chooses to.
Bill, with those,
I realize Cahaba is downsized significantly from what it was originally.
Oh yeah.
But it's still a significant addition to what we have right now. But at least those are things that the town can make it, you know, they're going to happen. If you don't participate, they should give you notice, but they may or may not. I don't know what the departments.
Yeah, there's only a few handful of significant
does
left.
force majeure affect this?
An assured water supply. Well, let me put it this way: the department always has the authority to review the current hydrology and determine whether there is or is not an assured water supply. How that affects those that are issued is a different issue.
Where it gets triggered is when, like in case of Cahavas and their development agreement is that, they have a certificate, but it's changing ownership and they wanted to do a couple of modifications. So that triggers a new review. And what we said is that we would sign the notice of intent to serve, but it's up to ADWR to determine whether or not they're going to issue that certificate for the 230 lots. So we don't control that. So
I know,
that,
but you
yeah.
can weigh in and
Yeah.
indicate what your water condition is and.
Yeah.
Because right now they know that you are 100% relying
CIP.
on a CIP.
Yeah.
And if.
No, we don't have
and
extra.
Obviously, we don't know what the percentage is going to be, but certainly
Yeah.
one of the things you can ask the department to do is not make a decision until a determination has been made, so you know what the cuts are. At least
Yeah.
if nothing else, it helps, put it in perspective.
Yeah.
But I mean, again,
Good discussion,
any certificate of assured water supply that was issued more than 10 years is subject to review and potential renewals. And so it's just
Yeah.
something to.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point.
And whether your contracts, again, leave it to your attorneys to
Yeah.
argue about whether they fight a developer on contracts that go back 35 years.
Yeah. And there, again, in some cases,
But we
people don't.
strongly suggest a review, an aggressive
Yeah.
review.
Yeah, and I also caveat that by saying some of those clauses were issued because they did water service agreements with subdivisions that actually helped pay for things like the CAP pipeline and the water treatment plant. So yeah, that's how that infrastructure got built. The Cave Creek Water Company actually leveraged the growth in the system.
It wasn't a
That,
guarantee of
yeah.
your water supply, it was a guarantee of that they would build the system, the system's.
Yeah. Yeah, and and we've had this conversation about, again, if it gets so bad that we have to go into mandatory restrictions, then can we get to the point that someone might have a certificate and we have to say, sorry, you can't get a meter right now because we're in a restriction, and we can't do that. We've had those conversations internally, legally.
Yeah, and I realized that
Yeah.
the town council has its own issues with slowing down development because that's a revenue source for them, and I appreciate that. And you also have the problem that developers are very good at finding ways around. If you're not hooking up, they can drill wells.
Mhm.
And the last thing the town wants is another 100 small wells all throughout the town of Cave Creek. I mean,
That's right.
just makes it harder to get your wells up and running if you end up.
Yeah, and we know the wells, we've done the testing, they're not going to be
There's a
long-term
lot.
reliability. Yeah, and we're already seeing that in Desert Hills where as soon as we stopped issuing meters, there's a lot of development out there, and there's home builders we know who, I hate to use the term, but are gaming the system, and they're putting in what looks and smells like a subdivision,
It's
but they've
ridiculous.
worked
People-
around the
people are
rules.
So stupid to buy right now. I wouldn't even. do
Yeah,
it.
and they're not cheap homes out there. I was just in a meeting, and they're talking, someone spent $2 million for a home, and I'm going, where's your water?
Yeah.
So.
Uh,
But that's their, again, people going to situation, I think, again, is the education. The people, are they aware? We still get the conversation, Ryan takes the brunt of it, is, people think they're entitled to it. It's like, no, you're not. So, yeah.
So,
Well, going back to Hoover, so 5 of Hoover's 17 turbines have already been shut down. due to
Okay,
the failure
so they're
of it.
reducing.
Okay, and then
I know they're trying to
the one
retrofit a
before-
few. They were trying to retrofit.
seven
more so they can
turbines will
lower-
be out of service.
Wow.
So it's already,
It's getting bad.
and that's dealing with the power part.
Yeah.
And then that's depending on how many, and the millions of people that rely on that power. So that power is going to increase. Some of the cities are already making a change and knowing it's coming. So it's happening. It's
so we're
not,
building
it's
more
not-
data centers, to help that whole
I'm
situation.
totally against data centers, so don't even get me going there.
Yeah, it's hard because it's, again, I wish the federal government was, I'll be honest, was stepping up a little bit more. These are big projects we're talking about, like even things like Bartlett Dam, that's at this point close to $4 billion to build that project. That's going to take a lot of wherewithal.
Time, years is
Yeah, and can they do something like the CAP work become something that we can pay off over time, that would allow more people, because
right.
agencies are talking about dropping out of that project because of the cost. And it's like, well, they can't afford to do that and something else.
Right.
So it's like, which one do you
Right.
choose?
Page is
Yeah.
approved an AI center. So Page up by the Colorado River, they're going to suck a bunch of water off of the Colorado River. And if you keep up on AI centers, which is a very interesting, because I'm up on that too, because remember, I'm a researcher. So you have a little research person here. That's causing, there's a big lawsuit on further down on the Colorado River about a group, an AI center that is put in for an unbelievable amount of water from that. So I mean, it's a big issue.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Plus 113 submitted applications pending review, 113 in our state.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, it's hard, and you bring it down to our level of, 4,500 water customers. And, we were just recently in a meeting with Phoenix, and I don't saying disparagingly, but they, when I start talking numbers to them, they sort of look at me as like, well, I'm a rounding error to your production, but I'm a very important decimal place to this community because this is the water. And it's in the grand scheme of it, when you think about that, when they talk about connecting to treatment plants and they ask me how much gallons per minute I need, I say like 2,000 gallons a minute. And they're saying our plant produces like 50. So, but it's important to this community. How do we keep this community whole? And
Yeah.
then how do we, we don't have groundwater wells that we can rely on. The system started on groundwater wells, and the Cave Creek Water Company had the foresight to say they can't grow that way. Therefore, we need to build a pipeline. They thought they were going to what was a renewable long-term water supply, and the security on that's now the carpet's being ripped out on that.
To look
So,
at 3 to 5 years from now, what are home prices going to do? And we have to be realistic. And I like what he's thinking of what's out there, looking at that. But I mean, it's going to affect property values up here. I mean, there's no question. People, I mean, they need to wake up. If you look at what's happening, look at all this, even if it snowed crazy for 3 years, that's still not fixing us. Okay, it has, they say 10 years, that was what they're gonna need. Okay, so what's it gonna do to our home prices or our value of our land and our homes? And it's going to affect us. I mean, it isn't if, it's when.
The solution is if you want a real long term, it's they gotta look something other than Colorado.
Right.
Colorado River is not on to us.
Yep.
No,
But
yeah, and there's a lot of good discussion out there, and then the other program I didn't mention is a SWAP, I think it is. It's the program that Phoenix and Tucson are trying to lead, where again, as the larger agencies in the state, they can help facilitate smaller agencies short term, and it's also extending to long term to be able to transfer water rights and credits and stuff like that. I've had several people contact us about type 2 groundwater credits, and I had someone who owns agricultural property in Avondale or South Goodyear actually. And I said, well, I can't really do much to it because I can get the credits, but how do I get it physically in the pipe? That's the type of stuff that's being discussed. So is there a way we can get arrangements? So we take 3 or 4 party arrangements. Well, someone could use that water physically and get access to it. So can they give up, like what's actually happened with the exchange with Peoria and Surprise is that they will use their wells to actually pull out recovered water. It's not groundwater, it's recovered, stored water. Our stored water, and then allow their CAP allocation to come down to us, a proportional share of it.
Right.
So that's how it's working out. So these are the type of agreements that I think we're going to have to rely on, because again, the single pipeline down to the CAP project, it's incredibly stressful to run a system that way. Second connection to Phoenix will be nice, or first connection, and hopefully a second connection to Phoenix, and then can Phoenix become a water provider for the town. But it's our water resources, so that's the other discussion. We still need to get the water resources to them to deliver to us, and how do we get over that hurdle? So,
Do they provide water to the chip plant?
TMSC is actually in Phoenix, and that the history on that one is that's an area called Basket Farms. It's actually a large area that was state land, and state land did do a transfer of I can't remember the number, but it's over 10,000 acre feet of CAP water resources to Phoenix for that to go to market. So that land came with water resources. So
And they're expanding that. There's a huge expansion going on.
yeah, they're doing that, and they've got the new development around it. I think it's called Halo Vista. So that was all master plan. It's called Halo Vista. It's it was Basket Farms, I think was the original name of the area out there. The working name when it was with State Lands, but Phoenix has its infrastructure challenges. We met with them. They talked about just getting water out there. They're looking at billions of dollars of improvements to their distribution system just to support the growth on that side of their system. That's why we'd had a conversation. Originally, we were talking about a connection through Desert Hills to that. I refer to as the Toronto Reservoir. If you go out on State Road 74, you can see that one notched in there. It's like, can we go out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, they said, sounds like a good idea, but that's actually the more stressed side of their system. They said, well, we can make better connections over here. So, and they actually presented some good options for us. So
Just a thought, Sean, you're putting a extra line in, digging up the road. Should you put 2 lines in? One empty, one for future use?
Oh, well, actually, yeah. One of the discussions we're having with Phoenix is, could we make a connection and convert the CAP raw water line into a connection to them? That's one of the discussions, which we have to look at overall water balance because that would get us out of the water treatment business. But that might be a 5 to 10 year solution for us. Digging it up, it's hard to put something in because we're actually only digging up 50 feet of the road and putting in 50 feet of pipe. Can you hit it in the future? I don't know.
Just a
No,
thought.
no. Yeah, there's a lot in that corridor already. That's why it's a challenge for us to get across the road. Yeah. Yeah, there's actually a lot in that corridor already. Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, all good thoughts. So it went a little bit, but yeah, we are working. We've got a really good team with Brad Hill as our water resource consultant and Michelle Van Quathen as our water resource attorney. They're out there and they're keyed into a lot of things that I can't keep up with. And I say we've got one of the best teams in the state helping the town move forward with this. I wish we had one project that we could say this is the solution, but we don't right now.
On the groundwater wells, are any of them up and running yet, or?
No, I'm actually waiting for some reports back from a consultant, and then they're supposed to be working with a well equipper company and actually getting some information. So they should be the point that very quickly I can issue something and get that going, and have another consultant who will actually. We did the water testing, and it's all needs to be redone again. So we have to equip the wells, do the new source approvals, go through that process. So I've actually got another consultant scope of work to wrap that up for us. I think it'll go fairly quickly for especially the one at the treatment plant site, because there's actually already an electrical circuit for it down there. The other two actually have to get designs done and get them into APS. I have to reinstate. One needs all new electrical. The other one needs, there's 2 meters down there, and I have to have someone do an evaluation whether or not I can salvage either one of them.
Have you looked into any of the Phoenix wells that are close to the CAP line between here and Deer Valley?
I had a good conversation about City of Phoenix because their pressure zone 7, they say they actually have a lot of well capacity on that. But no, not directly bringing it in because it's their groundwater wells.
Well,
Can we do a transfer with them?
Getting offers for type 2.
Yeah.
And one of the things you might consider is talking with them if they're reasonable prices, is you can access their wells to bring them in on a type 2, and especially if it's a City of Phoenix type 2, they might be looking forward to having some type 2s retired effectively, or where they're in control of them through you.
Oh, that's good idea. Maybe I'll run that. Yeah.
I mean, there's all those things can play.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I know Cave Creek location wells are not great, and that's just where we are. I mean, that's
Yeah, well, and our best production wells were very high in arsenic.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Even to the extent they produce water, it's not good quality water.
Yeah.
So to the extent you can find a partnership, Phoenix seems to be the one you're dealing with the most.
Yeah.
Of somewhere, and you've got several miles of area that you have a line or 2 lines that you will be able to access
I like it.
cheaply, but and I realize that doesn't solve a permanent renewable supply forever. That's not, but it is a wet water supply that you might be able to work with. Now, they might be able to take the type 2 and just serve it through their wastewater treatment plant without even messing with wells. That mean that you may be able to work something out with them if that's what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if you had a portfolio of type 2 rights, and there are not a ton of them, but there are some in Phoenix, and that you can buy, and that might be worth something to Phoenix.
That's a good discussion actually, because I reached out to their water resource manager, Max Wilson, and you probably need to follow up with us in a few weeks to ask them some specific questions about, could we buy wholesale water from them? Think about that. I can follow up and say, hey, we got other options on the table. Our initial thought when we did the master plan is that, at certain times of the year we're producing more effluent and backwash water from our treatment plant than our commitments to Rancho Manana, so it was overflowing the lakes. we looked at a connection. Okay, why don't we send that water down to Phoenix and interconnect? But then we ran into some very operational issues that they actually have constrictions in their pipelines that we'd have to pay for improving their sewer system. And then the thought is it's going down to their new advanced water purification plant. If the technology is such that those plants only using RO treatment, you only get less than 70% of that water. So 30% is waste stream. So when you start looking at numbers, okay, we got to pay to improve a mile of sewer in Cave Creek Road. And we're only talking about 100 acre feet. So I'm only going to get 70 acre feet back in credit for how much money? And it's like, oh, well, okay, let's put that one, pin in that one and put it over there. A good idea.
At some point, when it's zero water versus very expensive water, sometimes you gotta go with the expensive water, but yeah.
Yeah, and we do have our challenge because again, I mentioned Mignogna, we do have a contractual obligation to give irrigation water to a golf course. So, and that's, so we can't put the effluent to any use besides the golf course right now. So otherwise we'd have 200 acre feet of effluent right now. It was only 184 last year. Mm-hmm. One of the bad things about the water conservation is that people are conserving water. We're seeing that because they're giving us less wastewater back. We're seeing that typically we get for most of the years I've been here, it's been over 200 acre feet of effluent generated a year. Last year was only 185. Mm-hmm. So we did see a drop on indoor water use, which means less effluent. But I would love to have that effluent and be able to do something with it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, good.
2049. So there's a lot of discussions with what they can do, how they can be better with it. And then, we've made them aware that if we go into restrictions, their contract, we would have to treat them the same as other customers and ask them to restrict too. So they can't just assume that they're going to get all the water from us. And then we know that things like when we actually make the connection to the city of Phoenix, we send them the effluent, and then we also send them the backwash water from the treatment. When you do water treatment, you're taking stuff out, and we generate what's called backwash water. So they get bulk of that, all that backwash water gets sent up to them. That's going to be cut by more than half because we're going to be running the plant less with the connection to Phoenix. And then when we run the plant less, we don't have to run the West Tech filters. We're very inefficient. We're actually going to run our Paul filters, which are very efficient. So one of my water sources that the town's been using and sent to them is going to drastically reduced by more than half. So then we get into a deficit situation. So we're trying to balance all this stuff out. And that's going to happen typically during the summers when we have the less effluent. And so that's when their lakes are the lowest because we can't keep up with their irrigation demand. So we've had some good conversations with them. They understand the issue. It's just how to get past that hurdle. So it's not easy. So all good discussion.
Okay, move on to item B. Committee discussion on general rate design, including base rates and usage tiers.
Included in our package, I have just a couple of kind of, for example, proposals on page 28 and 29.
Now, who is this generated by? You?
Me.
Okay.
Right. And I wanted to be clear that this is not a consensus thing right now. This is something I prepared for the benefit of our group and our discussions, and if it goes beyond this group, I need to get the consensus of the group, that we agree with it.
Okay.
But I wanted to get something after Ryan got us all the information, to put it in writing so that we can do what our job is to make recommendations. But anyway, back to Bill's point, the proposal here, we talked about expanding the tiers. Mm-hmm. And we also talked about starting to inflate the cost per gallon, going up to over 70,000 gallons a month to where it's almost double.
I like that.
What it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's really no limit to this. I mean, Nancy talked about being really punitive, but I think that you need to kind of phase into it.
I'm just saying what we could see, future.
Yeah, and this is based on 2007, so next year.
Right.
So what are the schools, the school that has high water usage?
We only have a couple of school accounts. The biggest one is the one in Desert Hills, Desert Mountain. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, Lynn, I didn't want to focus on the schools and the commerce because everyone is individual. You know, we need to focus on the biggest bang for the buck, and that's residences. And somehow get people to start using less there. You know, once that's happening, you know, I want to use education and outreach and stuff to schools, churches, businesses. But I don't want to be a thorn in their side. I mean, they're important to the community and I want to support them. And you're right in being concerned because some of them use a boatload of water, you know, but I think that, you know, with some
Make
kind of,
Exceptions.
pardon me?
We could make exceptions for schools.
I think
This is
that
for residents? I
this
think
is
that-
residents only.
I think
Okay.
that's, okay.
That's my question.
All right, so
Right.
let's put
Yeah.
on top of here residential.
I should have done that.
That's okay. Okay, that's a clarification. That's good.
Right.
I thought I should maybe mention that the current rate structures with what they are is in your packet now. So like with the classifications and everything, if it's currently single family residential commercial.
Got it. Got it. Do you know what page that's on?
I like it better in color.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn.
I don't know. I think it's page 6.
I'm looking. I'll find it
agenda.
here.
It's not in the packet.
It's in the actual.
It's in the agenda packet.
Oh, and then, okay, got it.
So anyway, this is just a starting point. And I put what the generated income would be for a month, you
Mhm.
know, based on our spread. How we're using water, buying water today, how it would look under the 2027 actual pricing. And what it would look like under what I say is proposal A, expanding the tiers and then increasing as the water use goes up. So it would generate another, say, $23,000 a month. And that's a piece that, you know, I would take a special budget category and to support some of these excess uses to buy water on the spot market through barter programs. You know, Sean has developed a great relationship already. What we would need to supplement our water is just rounding errors for the big communities around us.
Okay.
But if we can get some kind of a deal and use this extra money to pay for that, you know, then we can kind of continue and give us more time, you know, to get our handle over overall water usage without cutting it.
I agree, and I'm all for, which we talked about over, well, it seems like a year ago. If nothing else, I like going forward with this because now you have a 40 to 50, a 50 to 70, and a 70 and over. And that's what this committee had talked about, was we wanted to do that. And so if we could get this moving in this direction, and then as the years go, as we know, we're looking into the future, these will rise. I mean, it's gonna happen, you know, so, but then it gets this moving. So I think this is great.
Now, from a timetable, this would have to be in front of the council by
Yeah.
October.
Okay.
And they would have to basically cancel what they just did last year and overlay a new one. So that's,
I'm all for that because again, they wanted to go, we were at that meeting and they didn't want to hear any of our recommendations and they didn't act on any of them because they had something already in writing, it seemed like, and they went forward with that. So I think this is excellent.
Yeah, we'll probably do this fall. Then we have a few new council members coming in January, and it'll be nice to do it this year. We are with the work we're doing with Matos and once we find out what the cuts are going to be, would this be the year to do it? We get it wrapped up for next year. The reason to do it October, I assume, is to try and get the enacted before. You know, we did the first mistake in 2020 when we did the rate increase. It actually hit in September or August. You know, it's like you don't do a rate increase in the middle of summer.
Right.
We learned our lesson. My staff took a field beating because everybody's coming in glued. My rates, their bills doubled in the summertime, but that's an opportunity. Yeah, with everything we got going on, I think it might be hard as a lift for us. And then what we've done before is we'd have to engage. We've used Reptalis before to design. I think it's Reptalis. They have the rate model, so in fact we have to get that to update that. It's more than just a spreadsheet. It's a multi-layered spreadsheet, and it has all the things like projected utility costs and all that stuff. And we have a few unknowns. I suspect that once we start getting water from the city of Phoenix, I think we can absorb that within the current operating budget with only maybe a little bit of increase. That's the type of unknowns we don't know about. And we have a little bit of uncertainty right now. So I wonder if we can do it this year or wait. Part staff resources, ability to do this. Should we wait till we find out what we get out of the Mados report to see where they're thinking we're going to go?
But then we're waiting another year.
Yeah, we get it all queued up and then we can do it. Can we, right now, I think the rates come effect. Is it March or February? The February?
It will be for,
Rates are February 4th, I think.
Yes, and
Yeah.
March will be the first bill they see the additional rates on.
So again, we get it on track for next year. We can get it in place so that it'd be actually the January bill that it hits. That we can move that up. It's moved around partly just because of when there's a statutory obligations. Once it gets put in, there's actually this like a 60 or 90-day waiting period that you have to do between the first reading and the second reading. And there's actually, if you look to time it out, it takes quite a few months just to get through the
That's
process.
why I'm all for pushing this because we've
Yeah.
already waited a year
Yeah.
and I don't know, my take.
Yeah. Oh. Great work. I can maybe present this to Grady and see if he's willing to engage it now or if he wants to pause or something. Maybe we should have, he's,
Yeah, I'd be happy to sit down, if you
Yeah.
want to set up a meeting and discuss any of this with Grady.
yeah. Sadly, actually tomorrow he leaves on a 2-week vacation. So, so I was trying to get it on his calendar before, when he gets back so I can talk with him.
But some of the other graphs, I pointed out the huge amount of water that's used beyond like a 10,000 gallon a month standard. We use almost half of our total water, and not just Cave Creek, but Desert Hills too. It's very similar buying pattern. And that's just not right. You have just a few people consuming much more water than their fair share.
Well, the one thing that's coming here, and I know Mayor Morse has made this before, is one thing's clear on these graphs is that the summer peak, we averaged 12,000 gallons per month for customers, but you can see that's because the winter usage is down and the summer months are higher. We have the fact that we have
Plants.
the wrong plants, it's outdoor water use.
Well,
It's plants, it's pools, it's everything else. Yeah.
It's the plants.
Pools. We put a cover on it. We put
Yeah.
water. I mean, I have a pool, but and I foresee in 5 years that my pool will be covered over, meaning it'll be gone. That's the other thing people need to wake up about,
Yeah,
so-
yeah, having a pool and 10 or 15,000 gallons sitting outside that, is more of an aesthetic feature.
Town's
Yeah.
decision, that should be your decision.
Well, it
Yeah.
will be my decision, but it will be my decision after in 5 years.
It's going to cost you how much money to fill that?
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a bigger picture to this whole thing.
Yeah.
And
And I do think there was some thought of that, we've been raising rates since 2020, and even Mayor Morris has made the comment that, the thought was with and every rate, so they've always pushed it to higher rate tiers. Again, it was originally 50,000 above, now it's lower to 40,000. That has not had the impact on water conservation that we thought it would.
that's why this is great.
Yeah.
Because he breaks it down.
Yeah.
and People have to maybe pay attention or they're gonna fund something else.
Yeah.
With that money.
And we do have it in the town code that if we get into what we can call a shortage situation where we don't have the water resources to meet the projected demands for next year, that town council can then enact through town code resolutions that allows us to do directly this, to take and charge surcharges that would immediately go into effect and could fund outreach operations for water conservation or enhanced monitoring. That's all. We put that in code. We're going to try and strengthen that a little bit, but we did that in 22 with the drought management plan, knowing that would give us a tool. We can't wait to go through a rate study, that we have to just set a number and say, okay, anybody using over this amount, you pay a surcharge, and that surcharge is being put to use for us to buy water or to help make sure enforce conservation.
This committee now for over years recommended this.
Yeah.
He's come up with a plan. And, I personally don't think we should wait a whole nother year. That's my.
All right.
It's gonna take very quick reaction by the council though to make it happen.
Okay, but let's at least put it in front of them and let them say no. So that then next year, maybe they'll be ready. So we know that when things are voted on, sometimes people say no. But if we wait until put it in front of them next year,
I have no
that
trouble
could be
with
their
that.
year of
Yeah.
saying no, and then we gotta wait a whole nother year.
Yeah, we have a new council.
Yeah. Again, right now, the current rate that we did last year, and do agree with some of the perceptions, it was, I'd say raced through, but it was largely, we had just completed the master plan and we had a lot of projects listed in that. It was a way of addressing the master plan and some operational cost increases that we were seeing. It was not presented as a full-fledged rate study. It was an update because we already had rates in place through 2028, but we were already falling behind on the projections from
But we did
23.
3% every year, right?
Yeah, but there was, yeah.
For how many years is that? They
It
approved.
goes to 2028. So again, in 23, we adopted a program of a 6-year program that got us through 28. We were falling behind as soon as we completed the master plan. And then as we saw costs rising, that's what facilitated, hey, the last 3 years, we need to get something in place now
And
with
the
that
other
effort.
option is, I
So-
mean, if it's too much for everybody, too much change,
Yeah.
is just going forward with, since we already have the rate structure for the till 2028, is to change this part and get this approved, the 40 to 50, the 50 to 70 and over 70.
Expenditures.
I mean, I'm just giving another idea of not as much change for people to look at. And you're looking at, a proposed new pricing. They already have a new pricing, so to speak, approved till 2028 with the 6% every year. What if, I'm just giving an idea of a part of it.
Yeah, I don't know how that would read per statute if we'd have to still go through the full exercise of a rate study to get that adopted, which means you're basically doing all the same base work and is
Or
worth.
you say we would, or you have to check that.
I think we'd have to ask the question.
Okay,
I think, yeah, because I think anything to change to the adopted, I don't know enough about all the actual legal details and whether or not if we try,
You change the rates, you have to have a
a study
staff report that
justifies that.
justifies it. It has to go through the public hearing process and.
So we trigger the entire time period.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you don't necessarily have to hire an outside consultant to do it. Internal staff can put
Yeah.
together
Let's do that.
a short. I mean, I'm not saying you have this
No.
capability of doing that. I'm just saying.
Well, and
It's not required that you have a full rate study per se. What you have to have is a staff report
Okay.
that supports the rates that.
Yeah.
or the rates, the revised rates that.
But the firm that we have that does the work they're fairly cost effective. If they have the time to do it, they could probably build this in and do basically an update to the reports that we've had. They've been good reports that have been very defendable and explain it all. So
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
yeah, you do have to go through the process if you are if you're increasing the rates. And this is obviously a proposed rate increase. So yes, that would require you to go through the process. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
There are-
But some of this, again, if we go into an excess, because to fund special projects, that would be something that town council can do by setting a surcharge, which they can do in code by resolution without having to go through rate study. That's how it's structured such.
Okay.
So if we are in a shortage, and the one thing we haven't been able to do is because we're not tackling a shortage, because I don't know what the cut is for next year.
Right.
Once we know the cut, that triggers on stuff. Ironically, if they trigger a 14% cut, we can absorb that with the current water resources. So now we're not in a shortage situation. So that's where we're actually talking about changing town code to give us more latitude. It's not just do we have enough water to meet current demands? It's also maybe looking out, projecting a few years, and we need to build that into it. And that's one of the discussions we're having with Michelle Van Quathen and with Matt Matos of how do you word that? So that it gives us more latitude. Again, I hear what Scottsdale's doing, what Phoenix is doing. We were in meeting with City of Phoenix and they said, are you guys going to be in a rate, your stage 2? And I'm going, well, actually, no. If it's only 14%, I'm still in stage 0. In fact, because at 14%, we're not using all the water resources and that doesn't trigger it. So we need to figure out how we define it. And then we can tweak town code, which has a process to go through to do that to enable, again, council right now could enact surcharges. If I said, hey, we're short water, they could do it right now by a resolution very quickly. I can't tell them that because I don't know. And at 14%, we're not going to be in a shortage. But then how do we deal with growth on that top of that? And that's what we need to figure out the language to make that work. So I'm not saying no to this. I think it's good. It's just how else we do it. But once that's in place, then we'll give us more tools.
Could we
So,
vote on, at least from the committee, make a vote that we are sending forth, that we agree that we would like to increase the volume tiers? I mean, I'm just giving something that.
I'm not ready to do, I'm not ready to vote for that, but we can certainly have a motion and see what happens. I need to look at this a little more at depth.
Yeah, in all fairness, Nancy,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
just talking about the tiers, not even the prices.
I have to look at, the underlying, if that makes sense to me, as I said, as we talked last time, I'm not necessarily agreeing or in agreement that you need to add those 3 tiers.
So I think just the agenda, it just says general discussion, but we
Yeah.
can put it on, a future one that says motion. I think page 10 is really telling. You look at page 10, that's a big one, I think. For me.
Page 10, back, there's numbers at the bottom.
Page 10 of what you put together is really telling because.
it says that 35% of our
This, the bar
customers
chart?
use
Yeah.
74% of our water.
Well,
Lynn, it's this one?
Yes, it's this.
Pie chart. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the
Pie
pie
chart.
chart, sorry.
Yeah.
But that one that's really telling is 69 customers, 3.5%. 3.5% of users use 20% of our,
That's huge.
3%, 3.5%.
And this is all residential?
That's residential.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I'm.
Have we done any of
This
those?
is residential only?
That,
Are they
Oh, it is
on
residential,
research?
okay.
Are they, have we done any
no,
research?
no,
to-
we don't,
I mean,
we don't know,
Most likely it's.
Because I-
outdoor
I'm just wondering.
use.
don't know,
Okay,
don't know.
But,
But Bill, that's what the reason, the justification for the extra tiers. You know, because we wanted to kind of tackle those guys way at the top end.
I understand. I think I understand what you're going.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily totally supportive of it, but I want to look at it a little bit more, as I said. But that, I just want to know if the data that I'm looking at is all residential in this.
It is.
Okay, that's all. Because it makes a big difference as to what we're looking at.
That's one of the things, when I first saw that number, I thought if we were including all the numbers, effectively, a water ranch would be in the top tier too, because we're always in the top uses. We're talking about how do we conserve water? And, it's a discussion we have with, this town is unique because we don't have property tax. We rely so heavily on,
Well,
yeah. But I think for commercial accounts, it's I know with the commercial customers, as we increase the tiers, we have to figure out how that distinction, because you can't keep putting the burden. Like there's restaurants in town that they use a lot of water, and all of a sudden we start
Well,
doubling their
I'm
bill.
big on, the low, they're gonna have to be hammered eventually as far as.
Yeah, that's where we're talking about with Madhouse, is there are things they can do, internal audits and stuff like that to limit their,
It can be a system that's way better than probably what they're using right now. That
Yeah.
can be reviewed.
And then also if they're successful though, they're going to use more water just inherently in their operations, and then you're penalizing them because they're bringing in more revenue for the town. It's a balancing act. So that's actually one thing I want to have a real good discussion with Madhouse about, because we've seen that with the commercial customers that, they bring in the revenue for the general fund through sales tax, and how do we support that?
Well, no,
Yeah.
but you don't have to be
But
careful.
how
when
can we
you're-
encourage them to be better?
Flush toilets, when you require hand washing and what we're talking about conservation,
Mhm.
they should.
Best
be doing something
practices.
Too.
That's
I'm
what-
talking about good management practices to run a business,
Mhm.
and we're not trying to make it where they don't bring in people.
Mm.
We're saying they shouldn't be using extra water when there are ways and things to do. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I do think there's some things we could offer, like some programs to help encourage that by giving, we're not the experts in that. And if we could have people who could go and do those types of commercial water audits to go through and say, let's look at this, you've got some older restrooms. If you change them out, you could save this much water. And
Yeah.
with the new advanced meters that we have in place, they can actually see their hourly use. And we see some customers, as commercial customers, that the water never stops.
Yeah.
Why is it always going through them? And what processes are using that water in the middle of the night when you've shut down for the night? What can you do? And I think part of that's education to people. Obviously encouraging and increasing the rates is one thing, but I think we factor in that with education outreach to them and say, hey, we're going to try and help you, and we're going to try and encourage you to get better with this too, because we also know you're a big partner for the town in our
Well,
growth for general fund.
Picture 8 years from now, in 8 years, it might be a requirement that if you have a commercial business here, that you have to upgrade to certain levels of certain things in order to conserve water. I mean, and you usually give them some time to do it, but that's coming.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been amazed that, in active management areas, they haven't required, waterless toilet, urinals for at least 5 years.
Right.
I mean, they've.
The technology's improved a lot.
Been
Yeah.
doing it for 15.
Yeah.
Prescott's and Basin.
Right. So there are things out there, I guess
Yeah.
is what we're saying. So that's the
And-
commercial area, but that does need to be addressed eventually, and it's going to be because of what's happening.
Well, yeah, it's amazing as
that we've been in a drought for 30 years and really have not had any drought management
Yeah,
involved.
I agree.
Invoked, but that's.
Right.
But I'd like to ask the group just to take some time between now and the next meeting to look this over. I'd appreciate any feedback. The second part of this, I have various proposals. And those are even more critical that you all take a look at, because I need, consensus. What we go forward with, because I want this body to start making recommendations to
Yep.
the council rather than just talking to ourselves.
Oh, I agree. No, I agree 100%. I really appreciate it, Robert, you putting this.
Very
together,
much so.
Especially
This is excellent.
in basically a weekend, because you only got the data.
I don't want to rush it.
So.
But you're right, Ryan was right. The one most informative chart is that pie chart that says how few people use how much water.
Right.
Yeah.
Stands up.
And then on top of that, though, we're gonna have to look at, I believe, that has to be broken down. Is that how many of them have 50 acres? How many of them have 100 acres?
Yeah.
I mean, there is some breakdown on that might need to be looked at,
But
is,
that might explain it, but that doesn't justify it.
no,
If I
but,
have, 25 acres out there, if I have 1 acre, I have the same meter line. Same number of people living in the household, why should one person's
but
water
maybe
be?
that is different. Like we have a
Yeah,
lot of
heard of
places, we have houses that have multiple. I mean, I see a lot of that actually, that has 2 there. I'm just saying that I would like to see a little more detail on that. And then what are we gonna do in the future? And it is a future thing to talk about. We have a lot of animals in this community. Are we gonna get to the point where we penalize that? And we might, I don't know, I'm just saying, and I'm not for that, I'm an animal person, but do we have a ranch that, and I'm just looking at, I'm not part of them, but I know the ranch up off of, Schoolhouse. I'm assuming they're one of these. How many horses do they have there? It is a business.
If it's a business, it's separate, should be separate.
It's when you get down to identifying the allowable uses. That's what I keep hearing,
Okay.
right? I mean, isn't that what we're saying, the allowable
Yeah.
uses?
And so I'm just asking, because if,
Sources,
yeah,
How you use the water
Right.
versus
Right,
the, if you want to use more, you pay more. I think
Right.
that's
that's-
exactly,
and I agree.
that's the option.
At some point, do we get to the point where we don't want you to pay more? We just don't want, we don't have the water. So that goes back to, do we get to water allocations and we come up, this is what you get. And when you exceed that, you need to stop.
The last thing I want is to cut somebody's water off and put a refraining meter on there and,
Yeah.
that's,
Well, and that question has to come up because like you have a person like me who I already conserve. So are you gonna cut what I already use? And if that's the case, I need to use more now, which I wouldn't use, but I'm just saying
no,
that is a thought. Because if you're gonna come tell me I have to reduce 30%, I couldn't. Because I literally do not water anything outside. My shower is less than probably a minute.
Maybe you fall in some of these other categories down in
Yeah,
here.
but you see what
Yeah.
I'm just saying
She
that,
has horses,
yeah,
and they
she-
use a lot.
but they don't
they're not
because I don't.
69 Customers.
But do you see what I'm saying? Because I manage my
You
property.
can manage it in
correctly,
certain ways that you use less
my
different.
bill's less than, $90 a month.
Yeah.
So I'm not using a lot of water.
Nancy, if your bill's $90, you have no problem.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm
You're
saying,
doing what you should
yeah,
do.
but what I'm saying is, so are you gonna take a person like me who's conserving
No.
in the future and say, you still have to cut 20%?
No, because you're using less than 10 right now.
Okay, well, I'm just
And
saying.
that's where some of the stuff with Manos's work, we're having those conversations again. Where can you can't ask the people at the low end to conserve. Where do we ask and how do you focus on that type of stuff? Yeah. Oh, 7, you're using that. Wow.
You know.
That can't be done.
Oh, it can be. I'm.
That's the point.
Yeah.
You're managing it.
Yeah.
That's,
But it's something to consider also, and that's something we will talk about eventually, is when you want to have people, when you say it's mandatory,
Yeah.
or we have to, how do you make those cuts? Do you make it on someone like myself and you look, well, she still has to cut 20%? I mean, I'm just throwing, those are.
No, and
ideas.
those type of things, yeah, I think that's an unreasonable expectation, because again, what we always talk about is we do believe that a lot of the usage is the outdoor water use, and that's, we're getting down to, it's really, if we get into a real true situation where we're short water, our main focus is life safety, making sure the homes are habitable, the fact that they might have landscaping that might be dying. And that's where we got into discussion of people had equestrian horse property versus people had like invested $100,000 in a pool and landscaping. It's like, which one governs? Like we say, we don't want either. At that point, we'll give water to the home and then you deal with outside. If you want to truck water in, you do something like you deal with that. So,
For future because of water.
yeah.
I mean, I am thinking, that drinks.
Okay.
I mean, so I mean, these are things that,
Yeah.
some of us are really thinking that way. I cover my pool. And I mean,
Yeah. You're doing all the right things. Yeah.
All the right things.
All the right things.
Well, that's not.
Yeah.
That half an acre foot rule again, like per parcel, but parcels are different sizes and then land use is different. So,
Hmm.
yeah, those are all good points you guys are making.
Yeah.
They're all.
Yeah, that was an attempt when we put that in 2021, we put the half an acre foot, and that was based on the numbers at the time. That was the average consumption, 12,000, just under 12,000 acre feet or gallons per month average. And that's at least was an attempt to put a volumetric limit on it. So now what's the next level we do? It still peaks in the summertime, so we still need to get the extra water resources through the system in the summertime, and then it tapers off in the wintertime. So how do you manage that? And we do think that's because of the 1.6 factor that we see in our growth in the system in the summertime because of outdoor water use. So
Page 3. June of 26. Less water. By a lot of people.
January, you mean, or
Well, that just shows
June?
that if you take a look at the dark blue and the orange, those are the less than 4,000 and the 4,000 to 10,000 users. The number of users, more people can buy within those ranges in the wintertime than they
oh,
can.
because of the outdoor water use. Yeah.
That's just.
Yeah, so that's what's telling us. Yeah. Who could survive on the lesser water, but they can't do it. It drops by less than half when the summertime because of outdoor water use. Yeah. That's all good graphics. Thank you for doing all this.
Yeah. Really.
And then this year might change with this rain we're getting. You know what I'm saying? Because last year we didn't have as much rain and monsoonish, right? I mean, everything got watered really well.
Yeah.
Couple times. Yeah.
I've never seen so few saguaro fruit or blossoms.
Yeah, that's right. Hardly any.
That's funny.
Out my dining room window, there's one blossom, one fruit on.
My wife and I were remarking on that too.
This is scary.
It is.
But was that because we had the hot couple weeks and then it got cool again and then then spring came?
I have no idea what Mother Nature's doing. or
It's
not.
awesome to fewer too.
We had great winter fall rains.
Yeah, we had
So
fall
it's
rain.
not a total stress, but it could be just a combination of
Mhm,
increased temperature all the time
mhm,
and not having a resting
Mhm.
period. I
mhm. Yeah.
don't know. It's like, why aren't we having babies anymore?
Can you explain 10 to me, page 10, which is the graph, how it's broken down by customers, volume, and so explain, and I just, because I'm having a hard time when you say X amount is using so much of the total water supply, but that's by customer class per volume, so.
Okay,
not
this
quite-
is people, the 69 customers that bought more than 40,000 gallons a month.
Mhm.
They're 3.5% of the total users, but they use 20% of the water.
Yeah, that's.
So the green on the pie chart is the 20%.
Mhm,
That's how much of the water pie that they're consuming.
mhm.
Okay, those 69 customers are using 20% of the overall or 20% of in the.
20% of our residential
Residential.
water consumption.
Overall.
So 52.6 million gallons.
Residential. That's a lot.
That's
That
a
was
lot.
really telling to me when I flipped through
Yeah.
this. I was just.
And again, I guess I want to know who those 69 customers are. I guess I could get the addresses of. We have to drive by.
I don't know if you got.
Or you should, or should.
Well,
Yeah, it's hard. There's, yeah.
it might make sense or not make sense. Maybe you go there and they've got the most gorgeous. I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that. Still,
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to do some details on that, things like size of homes, size of lots, and
Right.
because Maricopa County actually keeps very detailed records where, as much as they can, they have stuff, instead of a pool dog. Excuse me.
okay.
Number of fixtures in the house and all that. There's some good records, and to look at that lens. If you look at the parcel database, you see that, but actually they have on the backside, if you look at the assessor site, they have actually a lot more details than that. And we actually access to that data. So we ask them to give us a copy of that and we can use that as an opportunity
Just be
to look at that. Yeah.
But I think this is awesome.
Yeah. I know there's a couple of customers that they have a choice in lifestyle that they want a desert oasis type of lifestyle, and they've built that, and they've got, I use the term compounds that use a lot of water. We know of a few of them. Yeah, they've assembled properties. Either they've combined them into single lots, or they still got multiple lots that are all combined together, and they've got multiple meters feeding them. We know of a few.
Interesting.
So yeah. But right now they're paying the bill. So what do you do? How do you say not do that? They have small little lakes and stuff like this, but
My neighbor,
yeah.
I have a neighbor with what, 3 lakes?
Oof.
And on the averages, were these monthly over the year or by month? Because a lot of people are not here full time, and so there will be, they'll have 3 or 4 or 5 months of under 4,000, and then they'll jump up to 40,000.
Great.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what was indicative of that one,
Another one.
The zero.
the bar chart on,
We use
page
zero.
3.
Again, that's what I'm trying to understand how to look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody who used zero, that data was not provided. So if they're just paying the base fee. I didn't include it as part of the user. This is clearly just the users.
But if you're doing a rolling average, that they would factor into the percentage. So should you? I'm not sure. I'm curious how many are using zero to get to that point. They're just paying a base fee.
So then this number goes up even, or goes down, then it goes to like 3%.
Yeah. I can't imagine there's that many that leave. Do we have that many?
We got some zeros certain
Yeah.
months. So there's,
Hmm.
but if you include them, they're gonna be, down here then. This
Yeah.
number is gonna get larger, the blue pie.
Yeah, way down.
Right. And then the green's gonna go to like 3%.
But out of 2,000 users,
Yeah.
how many is that gonna be?
It's not a significant, but there is some zero users, especially this time of year. So typically winter months is when you get.
I suspect they're mostly the smaller homes that can afford to do that or don't have outdoor landscaping. Because if you got a landscape timer, you're going to use water in summertime.
Yeah. That was a good question though. 'Cause I contemplated that. I'm like, well, that's not really what you're trying to look at.
Well, but to the extent he's talking about revenues generated.
It does.
It impacts.
It impacts it from the usage, well, I mean, from a base fee. it does.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing we have to consider is when you ramp up your conservation, you have to raise prices in order to get your income in to cover everything you need to cover.
What I'm thinking based upon this year, where we are and whether you change the tiers or not, it sounds as if once you. And we'd like to have at least understand what's being proposed to the council when you're looking at the drought management plan and penalties and how you're going to propose that. At least I think we should have some opportunity to have some input on that before.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons. Well, we have 2 meetings planned with you and Manos because they're presenting those recommendations and formalizing those. So we thought you guys would be the ones who were going to bring it together with, and then the final conclusions were bringing. Yeah, so it actually be with your fingerprints on it that we're the Manos report. So we're going to be coming to you twice, and we got to get with them to figure out the schedules.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing is that
Yeah.
what we need to do is change that to reflect the reality of the CAP and not get down to, you can't do the surcharge at zero, you know, when you don't.
Yeah, the way we define it, we gotta change it. Yeah,
You
yeah,
need to be
yeah,
able to start doing that earlier on,
yeah,
when you're down to a percentage of, instead of
correct,
can't meet it. 'Cause
Yeah.
that is too late in the threshold.
correct.
And then utilize this data to add a surcharge in those billing components rather than just changing rates, because then you don't have to go through that whole process if you've already got the drought management plan in place. Marry the two to effectively do that, at least while we have the shortage. Then that gives staff time to think whether they want to make that permanent in a rate study and or whether they want to just continue to do it, through 2028 and, based upon the study they've got, and because we've got an immediate shortage. And then figure out how to wrap it in. I'm just trying to deal with the reality of what tools we have and the timeframes to try to deal with them.
Timeframes are critical. I
Yeah.
agree with that. Surcharge, I think, is kind of the last ditch effort. I'd like to kind of coax people through the rate structure, to behave.
Well, it's the same thing. I
Well,
mean,
it's-
effectively has the same thing. What you call it is a water conservation.
Yeah, one's a stronger action than the other, though.
Yeah,
But the rate study requires a lot of time, staff, and we don't have that right now. We've got too many balls in the air that are critical. And if we can accomplish the same thing with a surcharge and not have to go through,
Yeah.
What,
steps.
I know the surcharge before that was kind of brought up for, was kind of a fixed.
Well,
amount.
yeah, it was one charge, I think, if I recall correctly, per 1,000 gallons, wasn't it? It was a per 1,000 gallon charge to raise the money that was needed for water costs,
Oh, that-
But you can't penalize your base users by surcharge.
It was, my recollection, didn't start, it was started, from 1,000 gallons on, there was a certain charge per 1,000 gallons.
So those zero users would get no,
They wouldn't have gotten one.
right, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar, because I've been here, yeah,
That was the first proposal you guys had in your rate proposal. There was
Right,
a
it got
surcharge,
nixed, it got
and-
nixed.
And it got nixed, you were
Right.
trying to raise,
yeah. Well, I'll be honest, this last update, the utility staff were almost excluded from. So, yeah,
That's kind of deceiving, and I felt when we were going over all that,
Yeah.
that's why it got nixed, because it was kind of hiding, what's really happening, and it wasn't being forward and out there for the consumers to see and look at. It was
Well-
kind of like, oh, the town council now can, oh, they're gonna vote that in, and now guess what? And people are gonna be like, well, wait a minute, we didn't even know this was happening. And yes, legally, it sounds like you can do this, but
Mm.
that's why when we had that conversation and we had those meetings, that's why everyone started thinking, wait a minute, maybe that's not the best way to go about the increases. And that's when we went back to getting rid of that. Let's make our 6% per year through 2028. Let's be a little more transparent on why are we doing this? Who are we doing this for? And that was my interpretation of what we went through.
I think it also was just the amount of increase that added to everybody, who went from a 6% increase to like a 35% increase.
Well, I could see that happening again, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for the top tiers, I mean, based upon the proposal that's in here, from what, just reading it very quickly, I mean, it's gonna be a much heavier percentage increase.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
when we started that rate study, the real basis was the capital program and what was adopted from the master plan, which actually pointed out about double the amount of water resource purchases that we currently have funded. We had over $20 million of water resource. The rate study goes out 10 years. Obviously, it was only a 3-year projection, and they're saying that in the next 10-year cycle, we need to buy 2 purchases of $10 million, $20 million of water resources on top of all the capital program. I went through the capital program about 5 times to push projects around to limit what we needed, and but there's a lot more to do. That would I always determine it was erased because again we had master plan showing all this stuff that we needed, that we knew we were already behind because of the 23 study. It was out of sync, and we told everybody in 22 when we did the 23 rates that, hey, we're just doing our master plan. It's probably going to change, but we need at least to start doing the rates. We can't wait till we know all the information. We have to keep doing. That's what the last year's was, that we got to do something, and there's more discussion to have with it. We're not. I'm just curious what council is going to want to do, if they want to do it now, knowing that there's going to be a few changes in council for next year, that they want to take that on now or wait a little bit. I can see both sides of the curve. The more we wait, and this town did wait from 2009 through 2020, the only thing that really changed was when they started doing the boosted water rates. A lot of agencies went way too long without rates, and now they're being caught doing a lot of rate increases to do that. Chandler's in that situation doing that. Gilbert's really bad too. Because you get behind. When I was in Avondale, we did the same thing. There was 9 years between rate increases down in Avondale because they said they didn't want to burden their customers, and all of a sudden it's like, but you can't run the operation, so you have to start ripping that Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
This town's been good because since 2020 we've been proactive, and we did a rate increase 21, 20. We skipped 21 and 22. We did another rate increase, and that was for 6 years, getting out to 28, and we've already updated that. So we've been trying to do it, but yeah, the uncertainty and the costs are scary, and the biggest one is water resources, having to buy that. If we had a project where we can say that's the one project, let's get funding put in place, make that work, but we don't even have that solution in place, and that's really scary. So how much do you fund and sock aside for a rainy day, or for that project that's going to come along? So yeah, a lot of unknowns. But all really great discussion. It's good to see it this presented this way. It's really informative to
Yeah,
me.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Nothing else. I think we should keep
Yeah.
reviewing this
Yeah,
every
yeah.
meeting until we have a
Yeah,
plan of how to go forward with it, or how you want to recommend the council goes forward with it. I don't want it to get buried because
Yeah.
we.
I know your
we've been here
purview.
Before without this data.
Yeah,
Now we have data.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we don't want it to just get buried.
yeah. And I would suggest, I'll just talk to Grady about it. Is next time that the rate study gets kicked off, that it needs to start here first, because that's actually in your purview as the Water Advisory Committee, that reviewing rates,
Yeah.
and even that is actually in your purview. So it should start it off with the meetings here before it got anywhere
Right.
else.
We were just
Yeah.
presented with
Yeah.
it last year. It was already a done
It's too
deal.
late.
Yeah, it was a done deal at that point. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, Bill?
The next item is agenda items, there for the August 26th, and related to that, I think, is whether August 26th is a good meeting date or not. And I hear 2 people at this meeting won't be available. And so, and I don't know, you said you would be leaving when the 8th? Yeah,
I'm leaving the 10th,
the 10th, okay, and you're going to be gone for how long?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
You.
Okay.
The first weekend.
So one of the options would be to move it to the first week of September.
I would be home the first week of September.
Those towns.
Sounds, what, that's cancel week?
No, I don't know. But
This is the first full week, because it's September. I think council might not be, because that first week starts at Tuesday, so I think the council meeting might be the 8th next week. So if you do the week of the September 2nd, I think they'll be off council.
that should be.
I think it should be 8 and the 22nd. Is it on the calendar?
No, there's nothing on the side.
It's on the calendar.
So the advisory committee's on there. But
I
I know, I'm sure you got.
Oh, that's it, oh, that's fine.
think it's first full week, so I think in September it should be the 8th and the 22nd.
I respect anybody who wants to put an agenda.
I'll have to go check. I've got a future calendar on my desk to staff.
Be glad to
meeting.
give you my phone.
It's usually the first full week is what they count. So if it's a partial week, they don't count it. So it's the next.
So then, yeah, the 2nd should be good then.
Okay,
I
that
can
work for
verify
everybody
that.
that's here,
I can make it.
okay,
And then what I'll also do is we do that meeting is we'll talk with Matos to see what their schedule is, when they think they might be wanting to do the 2 check-in meetings and get that looked at. And if they can meet the second, that might be a good time to start presenting their information. Otherwise we'll map out the rest of the meetings where they can present with you guys.
So in addition to what we've already got, I don't think there's anything on here that we don't want to keep going. Except possibly.
We'll have to talk
Yeah,
about water
all the
resources.
things that are on this agenda continuing. But then we had the issue of the Holland Center and Desert Awareness, when, you know, their proposal.
But it's not Desert Awareness proposal.
Okay.
Ryan Smith's.
Okay, Holland Center.
Yeah.
There's a proposal. And I didn't know if Desert Awareness wanted, because they have the other proposal.
They had a proposal, but we didn't have the funding at the time, so we weren't
Yeah.
able to do anything with it. And I'd almost like to get another one that we can present, and whether or not that's a discussion whether I have to go back to council. But if the council's given us funding to do outreach, and they wanted a touch point, might be say, hey, this is what we want to move forward with. It's almost like the community grants program where we prevent staff recommendations, say this is what we'd like to do with it based on the budget we have. That's why I envision it, because I think council would be good.
Ryan Bass. Right, and.
Yeah.
Just for sharing.
So yeah, we just gotta get that.
But-
building
You
in.
know what's
My
going on.
issue is,
Yeah.
should they both be on the next agenda, the September 2nd
Oh,
agenda?
I think as an outreach
That's
item.
my issue.
Yeah, no, I think in education outreach, and that falls underneath that broad, and that would be our own education outreach, which we've got an item for us to present back to you guys as far as a sign program, and then subcategories are collaboration with other agencies, and that would fall underneath that. Yeah.
And then in addition to the rates that we've been talking about, I would like to start talking about capacity fees and what you're thinking, what staff is thinking as far as how to deal with capacity fee, what sort of capacity fees you've been thinking about. And, you know, because I think that's critical ultimately to raise funds.
Yeah, it's been it's a 22 study that the last time we raised them, and at the time, you know, we didn't have anything in for water resources, so that's a big miss. And in 22, we did not have the current capital program, so they are due for an update.
Yeah,
To address
and,
that,
and
yeah.
I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
we needed to discuss it, and I don't know if the second, will you be ready to do anything or not, but I would like to
Oh.
start having some.
We talked about
input
this,
from you,
yeah,
What your thoughts are before we get into a whole rate study, and just so we
Yeah.
can, as a group, know what you're thinking, see if we have anything to add.
Huh.
Or
Yeah,
not.
well, that might be good as we can present what we have out there. I know the 22 study very well because I was very intimately involved. So between the 22 rate and capacity study, because we did that all the same time, and we broke that apart, and that allowed us to increase the rates significantly because we were paying for the improvements to the system, and the growth that was anticipated from the last one wasn't there. You know, now we've got the new capital program to factor in the cost of Phoenix Interconnect, the cost how that cost went up, and then now water resources. That's a big one. Is do we have the information?
Is what I'm adding. in
Yeah,
capacity.
we definitely want to add that in. It's just legally, can we do it without having a project like the Harka Halo on our books? You know, right now we have Bartlett Dam on the book, so effectively we could say, yeah, we.
I think you can do it as long as you can indicate that you will, you know, be moving toward a project, and that is a sample.
Correct.
expense.
I forgot about Bartlett. We are in Bartlett, so we could use that as our example project in order to set a fee that, you know, then that, but, you know, then we get stuck with the project. Bartlett can't be used for growth. So then it can't be used for capacity fees. They've told us that outright, that it's not reliable water resources that we can use for growth in the system. It's just back.
Now all that silt that we're pulling out of there. 'Cause
Well, again.
that silt can be sold. I brought that up at the meeting.
Oh, up at Horseshoe, that's blocking
Yeah,
Horseshoe.
We pulled that out, we could sell that.
I thought they were pulling any out.
Well, they're in this proposal,
Well, one of the things they looked at is to remove it, but I think the cost, and that's where they
Yeah.
drove to the cost of just raising Bartlett. Effectively, Horseshoe will be inundated with the new reservoir
oh,
that's
so they
created.
don't want to do that, because they could sell that. There's tons of us that would. So
Yeah,
much.
and in
of that
fact,
is
the new, I
pretty
think,
dirt.
I think if I remember correctly, Horseshoe will actually go away and become part of Bartlett with the proposal to raise the dam 110 feet. The basin for Bartlett will drain, if it's full, will drain
Yeah.
back and actually take Horseshoe and incorporate it. Yeah.
Silt would
Yeah, I know they did when they started the project, because that project's been ongoing well, we got introduced to it when I first started, so it's 7 years ago that they started doing that evaluation, looking at can they just remove that material out of there and get it out of there. And I think they looked at it and said it was just the cost effectiveness wasn't there. I'm not sure if they looked at selling it and whether it was just.
At those meetings,
Oh,
a
okay.
couple people were like, wow, we've never thought of that. And I'm like, that can be sold.
Yeah.
I have a couple other items that may or may not be good for this September 2nd one. One is, since it was brought up, the discussion of the code red system, what alternatives do you have to that? And,
Okay.
yeah, and I don't want to make these go much more than 2 hours, so I'm not trying to. And then how do we monitor conservation? You know, didn't do it this time. What ways are available and what can we do to help you monitor? I mean,
That's good. Good one.
you know, because if we're gonna try to solve problems with conservation or charge things because people aren't conserving, we gotta figure out a way to know whether they are or aren't
Mhm.
and have a deal with it. And I realize you have some of that information from the new system, and
True.
whether there is personnel enough and systems enough to actually use it. That's, you know, because it's disturbing to me that you had no way of knowing whether you were getting what type of response you were getting to the code red system that you
Yeah,
said.
just in total usage.
Yeah, we could look at like the Cave Creek system and AMI during the time period of the outage and just kind of look over through the weekend. It's gonna give us a snapshot. It's not gonna give us, no, because our Desert Hills customers aren't fully AMI.
We just pull the customers that are on AMI, see what occurred. We have to look to obviously the weekend prior, but then weather conditions and everything factor in.
It's not a perfect.
No.
I mean, unless you're looking at individual bills and that's very and time intensive
Right.
but part of the thing that you're talking about is when do you do a code red? Who do you send it to and how do you give it and once you've got that system, how can we use that and build on it for your conservation system when without beating people over the head so that they just ignore it?
Yeah, you know what? Operationally, we'd probably want to keep those separate because again, we don't want we use code red very sparingly. We actually don't, well, we call it code red, but we use it for utility alerts when we think we have an operational issue that we
Look at though, like for instance, I didn't get it. Or maybe I got an email, but the question about email is, does everybody check their emails daily?
We get KPIs, like I know how many people it's been received to.
Okay.
So that there were thousands that got it in different formats. There's
I
16
just-
different ways it can go out.
I just
Typically,
wonder,
it's
'cause
I think it came on over the radio.
well, it wouldn't be over the radio, but it would be.
they would have picked it up, and I know there were some news stations that were picking it up.
Maybe they brought it up.
Yeah.
Through Facebook, through someone that sent it to me. All I'm saying is, I'm just giving you an example
Okay.
of someone who didn't get it in
Yeah.
real terms, I guess.
We'll have to look into, because
So,
we're checking her, how she's set up in the system, because, again, I know it used to be an opt-in program and we tried to do it from the utility standpoint. We really need to be able to reach out to all the customers and really should just push our customer contact list into the system.
being critical, I'm just saying, okay, well then how do I get it? Or,
Yeah.
It's good feedback. I mean, the system needs to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's critical.
Or maybe is it something I'm supposed to go in the system, like you say, and
Yeah.
sign up?
You sign up for the code red.
No, if you were in,
Fire alerts.
if you were in the area and it geocoded and you were geofenced and you were in the area and it would identify your cell number, whatever you've got that's on the database, and it would send a text or email if it's in a public database, those kind of things.
As I recall from an earlier discussion, some of the old customers never gave that data information. They never gave a phone number or an email.
And that could be a
And so
problem.
there were some customers that you just don't have other than an address.
A PO box in
or
some cases, yeah.
Yeah, a mailing address. You didn't have a way to give them. I remember that from an earlier discussion
That's
we
true.
had.
Well, that's something you could certainly require.
Well, I think they do now, but back,
We've worked on that quite a bit because it's actually required by code that we have we have to have a way of reaching out to people. And it's not just, you can't give it as a post office box or, you know, it's, we have, yeah.
Maybe I have to go back and look at whatever
And we-
date that was and see if
Yeah,
I-
well, yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things is that there maybe part of it is you need a system periodically to make sure all customers get a request to.
We've done that
verify
actually
that-
several times. We've actually done that.
Yeah.
And it's surprising how quickly Pete gets out of
What
sync.
date did it come-
Yeah, it's,
what date did it come out on?
it's on back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, but nobody
July
read that.
1st?
And with these separate mailers and, which alert.
I know I got a voicemail. Did I get a text too?
Yeah, I got phone.
Yeah, and then one thing we are looking at is because we had a few issues with it. Code Red was when the town had the Cave Creek complex fire, it was right after that because at the time they realized there was restriction and there was a way to notify the community of an evacuation. That's how we had got Code Red. Recently, we've had a few issues. Code Red, when we first got here, we were using it for utility alerts, but we were not, they didn't have the Desert Hills customers in there and say, well, that's really not very good if 40% of our customer base we can't reach out to. So they added Desert Hills in for us and then they lost the data set. So
I'm glad I pulled it up too. It does say, please visit for future updates, our Cave Creek, but that's probably not enough. We probably should have sent another.
we should have said, yeah,
Yeah.
we're through this, please, thank
Yeah.
you.
Website, it didn't have updates.
And it needs to.
Oh, we should have something, yeah,
That's-
emergency utility emergency is now, 60, thank you for your effort. Okay, that's our follow through on it. Thank you for that feedback. We'll talk to, we rely, when we do this, could we, I don't know, you can't edit the website directly, can you?
I can.
Okay. Usually we rely on Bo, so we'll reach out to Bo and Teresa and they can add this stuff to it. And so it's sort of a team effort. When something goes out, Ryan knows the code right out of it. Bo can do it. He's not as well versed, so it depends on who's there and available during the time of the emergency. Because we're a small staff, less than 50 people, FTEs total.
Appreciate
So
what you're
yeah,
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're just giving feedback.
Yeah, no, that's great.
To have some.
and
people
we're.
here, And then, sometimes you don't.
And there's discussion about should we change system? This would be some of the criteria that we have is can the other system and how can they address these?
to Facebook, so it did get to me, so I'm not
Yeah.
saying it didn't, and that's
That's
good.
one
Yeah.
of the
Then
16.
somebody saw it and sent it to me, you see what I'm saying, so
Yeah.
it
Can we
is.
back
it got
how she's in the system?
theirs.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll look, if you're okay with it, I'll look you up.
Hey, you can look me up, I don't
Yeah,
care.
well, it's gonna have the KPIs, so I
Yeah.
can figure that out. But it was the first at 12:55 p.m.
Okay, and it should come in as a text?
It can come in as a text, it can come in as a phone call. However, it sees you in the
Call.
system.
So that might be interesting, because a lot of us don't answer phone calls that,
But it would leave a
That-
message.
It does leave a message.
We send it out all 16 ways.
interesting, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the new phones that transcribes it. That's how I'll get it. I'll see it and I'll see the transcription of the voice. Oh, it's code red. Yeah. From the voice message on the phone is how I usually see
And
it.
then it's got attempts. So like if it doesn't do it on the first attempt, it will tell me it got you on the second attempt. If
Ah,
it didn't do it, and it does that for
Interesting.
about a good amount of time.
Because you should
typically-
sign
typically up
for
to an hour.
Code Red
Yeah.
Or fire alerts and everything else with the town, like the
Yeah.
town's website, so if you're not on their town's website. Code Red.
Yeah. And that's the public safety outreach versus utilities. And that's the discussion we're having. And then again, there's discussion, should we move to a new software platform? There's two others being evaluated right now. And we just have to get that formalized to see what opportunities they have. Yeah, and our initial thought was with Code Red is that we'd load it up with the utility count information as, ports and all, the people who don't have the camera. We have pretty good data for most of our customers. It's just we try to make it better, which has emails and phone numbers, but sometimes they're landlines, they're not cell phones. Because people don't want us to have their cell phone number and stuff like that. We try to educate them, say, this is for us to be able to tell you if we can't provide a utility service, we can't provide you water. We want to be able to tell you that, and we don't want you to come out and say you didn't notify me. Well, I can't reach you, so
Anybody else have an
Yeah.
agenda item besides what we
No.
already?
Yeah, just review this.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's one of the, as I said, anything on this agenda will be on the next one, plus the ones that I suggested.
okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Bye.
yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
yeah. It was good discussion. Thank you.